We'll call the meeting to order. Welcome to the November meeting of the Sayreville Board of Try that one again. Welcome to the November meeting of the Sayreville Board of Education. Thank you for coming. We will have the public notice read at the beginning of the start of the regular portion of the meeting. Please rise for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Hill, roll call, please.
Mr. Balca?
Here.
Mrs. Bacco?
Here.
Mr. Bashada?
Here.
Mrs. Bloom?
Here.
Mrs. DePinto?
Here.
Mr. Esposito?
Here.
Mr. McAgnon? Mr. Walsh? Mr. Sayak?
Here. Can I have a motion to retire into executive session?
So moved.
By Mr. Bashada, I have a second by Mrs. Bloom. Could you please read the resolution with the topics to be covered?
Whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances. And whereas this public body is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Borough of Sayreville, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, as follows. The public shall be excluded from discussion of and action upon the hereinafter specified subject matters. The general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is as follows. Personnel, including but not limited to agenda items, negotiations for the SEA. It is anticipated at this time that the above stated subject matter shall be made public at such time as the need for non-disclosure no longer exists. This resolution shall take effect immediately. Mr. Balca?
Yes.
Mrs. Bacco?
Yes.
Mr. Bashada?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes.
Mr. McAgnon?
Yes.
And Mr. Sayak?
Yes. Okay, the meeting's closed. We will reconvene in public at 7:30. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the November meeting of the Sayreville Board of Education. Take notice, this public meeting of the Sayreville Board of Ed was emailed to the Home Distribute and the Star Ledger in accordance with Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. Further, in accordance with NJSA 10:4-621, a copy is posted outside the Secretary's office, and a copy was filed with the Clerk of the Borough of Sayreville. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for our junior ROTC to present the colors. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You may be seated, and we'll be having a presentation to our junior ROTC program at the conclusion of our presentations this evening. Ms. Hill, can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Balca?
Here.
Mrs. Bacco?
Here.
Mr. Bashada?
Here.
Mrs. Bloom?
Here.
Mrs. DePinto?
Here.
Mr. Esposito?
Here.
Mr. McAgnon?
Present.
Mr. Walsh?
Here.
Mr. Sayak?
Here. Can we summarize executive session, please?
The board discussed personnel, including but not limited to agenda items, and the negotiations for the SEA.
Thank you very much. We'll move on. Our student council representative informed me that he will be here this evening, but he is running late. He is at basketball tryouts, so hopefully he'll have good news that he made the team. We'll move on to our presentations. Dr. Labby.
Thank you, Mr. Sayak. So much for that work. Testing. Thank you. We have some very special presentations for you today. As we normally do, we want to recognize some incredibly talented students. We have some students here today, and I'm so happy to see that we have many of them here today, who have demonstrated great talent, great dedication, and commitment to their programs on the tennis court as well as on the soccer field. And we have some incredibly talented artists that helped our district out when we really needed them when we are developing our in-service for November, we needed a logo, and these students came to the call and demonstrated their incredible artistic ability. But to begin things, I'd like to ask Mr. Esposito to join me up front so that we can celebrate and recognize our GMC White Division champion girls soccer team.
Good evening. Hope everybody's doing well. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone, by the way. This is one of our favorite times as board members to recognize our student athletes. We love having everyone here. It's awesome. And I have to tell you, last year we graduated a lot of seniors, and this was supposed to be what I was told a rebuilding year. Wow, what a shock, I'll tell you. Great job, Coach. Where are you? Coach, excellent job. Division champions first time ever, from my understanding? That's awesome. Terrific work. And for those of you who don't know, the season starts back in July, August. You see the games in September. These girls you'll see them running the streets of Washington Road and around the track, and they really, really put a lot of work in before the first game is even played. So, without further ado, Coach, you want to introduce your team? Coach McGarry, coach of the division champion Lady Bombers. Absolutely. You're on the spot. You can speak about your team a little bit.
Thank you, everyone. Just a couple things. So again, like Mr. Esposito said, this was supposed to be a rebuilding year. If you can't see me, I'm about 7.5 months pregnant. So it was quite the long season, but these girls were incredible. We only have 3 seniors, so we have a bright future, which I'm really, really excited for next season. So I just want to acknowledge them. Not everyone, unfortunately, was here. Some had games, some had tryouts. So I'm just going to recognize the ones that are here. But I would like to give the girls a round of applause for all their hard work. Yes. Lauren Attardi. Rebecca Barbosa. Veronica Barbosa. Khadijah Berry. Eliza David, unfortunately she couldn't make it. Brianna Diaz, manager. Captain Stephanie Diocampo. Manager Ali Fiola. Captain Megan Furbush. Victoria Gwids, who unfortunately couldn't be here. Manager Ashley Herndon. Jackie Jerkevich, who also couldn't be here, she had tryouts. Michelle Penna. Senior Anna Salgado. Kristen Signorelli. Senior Noelle Simoes. Olivia Severo. Samantha Soto. Samantha Szymanski. Carly Thompson. And Jackie Ventricelli. And Jordan Wilson, who also could not be here. Just to let you guys know, we did have some girls also make all-white division. So if they want to step forward, Lauren Attardi. Stephanie Diocampo. Jordan Wilson. And we also had people make all-state and all-white and all-conference. Jackie Ventricelli got all-conference. Jackie Ventricelli also got all-state, along with Stephanie Diocampo and Jordan Wilson on gold.
Yeah, they got to stand in front of the board.
Great job, ladies. Thank you very, very much. And congratulations again. And as I said previously, we have another group of incredibly talented young ladies who demonstrated their skill and their competitiveness and their dedication on the tennis court. And to help me celebrate and recognize them, I'd like to ask Mr. Walsh to come up.
Thank you, and I'm excited to honor our 2017 White Division Championship Lady Bombers. Arthur Ashe said, "Success is a journey, not a destination. The doing is often more important than the outcome." And I know that we're very lucky with our great coaches here at Sayreville that not only the outcome's good, but they stress doing the right thing all the time. And I've got to work with both our coaches here tonight, Coach McGarry and Coach Provenzer from our ladies tennis team. And again, they not only coach our kids to do outstanding work on the field, they also stress character and doing the right thing all the time. So we're so lucky here at Sayreville to have so many great coaches, especially this guy who I've seen in action, Coach Michael Provenza. 2016 Coach of the Year. Keeps doing it.
All right. I first want to start by saying that this team was truly special to me. It marked my 40th season coaching scholastic sports in Sayreville. So I wanted to make it special for them, and I wanted to make it special for myself. And I knew last year after winning the division title that this team was special and that we could do it even in better fashion. So I said the first day, right when we got there in August, I said, we're going to go undefeated in this division. And some of the girls were like, oh, yes, we are. And some of the other girls are like, is he serious? And after the first few matches, they really bought into it. You know, they bought into their capabilities on the tennis court. I'm truly honored to coach, some of the academic giants in the school. We actually have our #1 student academically sitting with us right now, Kat Beban. Round of applause for her. So before I call my girls up, I just want to send a few thanks. I'd like to thank my parents for coming to the matches, supporting us, always showing a smile to the girls, and ending each match, even though it may have been a tough one, with a smile and a laugh. That was always beneficial. I'd like to send a special thanks to Mike Van Note. He's not here tonight. He's the father of 2 of these girls, and he is one of the most passionate men I've ever seen when it comes to sports. I'm entirely grateful that he's on my team. And then, I never did this before, but I've been coaching tennis so long, and I never got to thank her. She's not here, but I want to thank her publicly. Her name is Dottie, and Dottie is a woman at the tennis courts from the Sayreville community. I think she's 81 years old. She's battled cancer. When I first started in 2005, she hugged me and she said, these girls will go as far as you take them. And she has been a staple on that court. And every time I see her, it's always a reassuring feeling that I get, some comfort. And she's one of our biggest fans, and I truly appreciate everything she does. So round of applause for her. Okay, now to call up my girls, we're going to start with our first singles player, all division, Kathleen Bevan. Grace Ekby. Samantha Gagnon. One of our managers, Hira Hashmi. Shreya Kanthaswamy. Julia Kitris. Our third singles, all division, Liana Masankai. Another manager, Akanksha Nagapuri. At second doubles, all division, Nirali Patel. Alicia Richardson. Camilla Rakowski. Tiana Saunders. At second doubles, Trusty Chef, all division. At second singles, all division, Kate Soodle. At first doubles, I have to call them up together because they're sisters. And they're all division. Jasmine Van Note and Stephanie Van Note. And Jasmine Yehudov. And that is the varsity girls tennis team.
Scrunch in, turn sideways. Oh, all right, 'cause I heard it before. I was looking, but it was just a defibrillator, so I figured that wasn't. I kept hearing noises.
Let's take a picture from the board and block the whole board out totally. What's the point? Give them once. We do a photo bomb, we go for the table.
Stuffing. That's good. They're too young. Only in this one. Where can you see? Can't wait. That's so true. I assume you'll have to be 18. You never know. What? That's true. Should be more revenue if they lowered the age.
Another great big hand for our undefeated.
There goes one. Already.
Yeah, one's not here.
Okay, and as I said earlier, we have some more talented students that we want to introduce to you, as well as celebrate and recognize. These students are incredibly talented in the art classroom. As many of you might know, November is a very big day for us. On Election Day, while we close our schools for our students, our teachers and our support staff is hard at work training and professionally developing. And each year, we ask our students to assist us in coming up with an illustration of our slogan. I don't want to get any of this wrong, so I'm going to ask some friends of mine to come on up and explain a little bit more about how Sayreville University goes ahead and selects slogans to use for our professional in-service day. So I'd like to ask Mrs. Nina Obert, Ms. Barbara DeSantis, and Mr. Rice is also here. Come on up here and talk a little bit about the process, and then naturally assist Mrs. Bloom in introducing and recognizing our students. Ms. Sober?
The 2017 Staff Development Day theme was Ignite Your Passion, which I thought was a great theme for a group of educators that was dedicating themselves to lifelong learning. But we did need something a little bit more, and while I can draw a mean stick figure, I figured I would reach out to an expert. So I went to Mr. Rice, who was telling me about an incredible new class, a graphics arts class that appeared in high school this year, and the talented students that he has in that class. He jumped at the chance to do this in September, which is a very busy time for teachers, so thank you, Mr. Rice. I believe he brought this to his students' attention that day. 4 amazing high school students brought this theme to life. They designed 4 different logos that gave our professional development committee a really hard time selecting just one, because I think we would have taken all of them if we could have. The first one was Kawhi Lucas. Catherine Makaretz. Joseph Gottstein, who I believe is at basketball as well. And the logo that was chosen was very special to me as well, because this was someone who I feel like I've watched grow up. She first registered for the summer enrichment program when she was a shy 7-year-old, and she has come so far. I hope this shows you how much you really can accomplish. Jordan Gallagher.
Parents, when you get my talk email next week, you'll see the different logos that they created. They were magnificent. Thank you very, very much. Okay, now as many of you know, and if you do not know, this year is our inaugural year here in Sayreville to have an Air Force Junior ROTC program. We couldn't have been more proud at about this time in the spring when we were informed that we were going to actually have a program here at Sayreville War Memorial High School after we had been waiting for about 10 years for it. The next step after learning that we would have a program was to go ahead and find the incredibly qualified and competent men that we have coordinating the program, and that's Colonel Spare and Master Sergeant Knowlton. We have been working very, very hard with our incredible cadets. As you could see, in just a short period of time when they presented the colors, how polished they are. I had the opportunity to observe a classroom just recently, and I was so impressed with the amount of knowledge that they had already grasped in terms of the uniform and its importance and how to wear it and how to take care of it. I then went into a meeting with a regional coordinator and was very, very impressed at that point as well in terms of the progress our program has made as compared to other programs. So it is with great honor that I present to you Colonel Spare and Master Sergeant Knowlton.
here tonight is to let you know what the ROTC program at Sayreville is all about. But I could come up here and bore you, or I could have some very qualified cadets that are very passionate about the program also. So I'd like to introduce, we've got Cadet Romero and Cadet Platero. We're going to come up and talk to you about
Hello, my name is Cadet Platero. I am a second lieutenant in the AFJ-ROTC program. I'm also in charge of recruitment and retention.
My name is Cadet Brianna Romero. I am a second lieutenant and I am in charge of curriculum and action, which is basically, I plan field trips for the program.
All right, so a lot of you may be wondering, what does AFJ-ROTC stand for and why there's so many letters involved? Basically, it stands for the Air Force Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps. Basically, this program helps to promote citizenship, and we do this through community service and encouraging our cadets to get involved within the community. We also develop leadership potential and strengthening self-esteem, and we do this through rankings within the program. Basically, the higher ranked you are, the more responsibility you have, and that builds leadership. We also improve physical fitness through a program we do once a week called PT, where we basically take the duration of the class and we go outside or we go to the gym and we do physical training. One thing I do want to stress is that AFJ-ROTC is not in any way, shape, or form a recruiting mechanism for the Air Force or any other military branch. This is basically just to instill citizenship within the students within our school. One thing we are very proud of is, as you just saw, our color guard. Basically, a color guard is a small group of cadets that present our colors, and to date, we have done every single home football game, so if you've gone to the football games, you've probably seen us. We have also done a retirement ceremony and a veteran ceremony.
Okay, so tomorrow, matter of fact, we are going on a KC-135. Now, a KC-135 is a plane that gives fuel to other planes, so it's a fuel replenisher. Tomorrow, cadets will fly on an Air Force training mission involving aerial refueling. So we'll basically go on the plane, and they'll take us up. It's like 3 hours, and you'll watch planes refuel, and we'll be on the flight. It's going to be pretty fun. This is at McGuire Airport. It's fine, keep going. Okay, so we did a retirement ceremony. It was for Diana L. Romero. She was a master sergeant, and when we went to this retirement ceremony, we presented the colors as we did tonight. We also did a flag folding ceremony. Now, as we did this, I think I could say for all my cadets, this was a very great learning experience. It really made us see that the Air Force itself is you're not just serving with people, but it's more of a family that you get adopted into. Okay, so what we have done so far for community service, I don't know if you've probably seen us if you pass by Buddy's Tavern on any of your way maybe to work, to school, to here. We had a trailer outside for Hurricane Harvey victims. So basically, cadets for two hours and a half would collect supplies from people and put them in categories on the trailer. We had a total of 24 hours just doing this. We also had cadets help out with brain injured children. Now, this is a non-profit organization conducted by Sayreville, and it helped kids with brain injuries, and they did activities and helped them play soccer.
So one thing that we definitely plan on doing in order to raise funds for our program is we do hope to get a fundraising event at Texas Roadhouse. We'll get some flyers printed out, and if you go and eat there, then we get 10% of your bill. So if you ever hear, oh, AFJ-ROTC is doing a program at Texas Roadhouse, please go. We kind of need the funds. We'd appreciate it. Another event that was really, really great for us was the U.S. Service Academy Day, and that was hosted by Congressman Frank Pallone. And basically, this was kind of like a college fair, except we had all of the U.S. Service Academies, as well as ROTC programs, which is basically our program, but in college. And it really opened our eyes to the different possibilities that this program definitely takes us to, and just the many things that we can definitely do in our future because of this program.
Okay, so we had a new unit visit. Now, you all might be asking, what is a new unit visit? New unit visit is when a visitor comes from HQ to just see, because we are a new unit, as he mentioned before. So basically, he would see like if we have all our necessary resources to start off good with. We wanted to go over the top and treat it like a evaluated inspection, where that would be like if they came in the middle of the year, like we had to have everything prompt. And so we went over and above to impress our representative, our regional director, my mistake, Lieutenant Colonel Williams, and he was very impressed with our performance and couldn't wait to see what the unit would develop in the meantime.
The last thing on our list is the things we definitely plan on accomplishing within this year and the next couple of years. One of the main things is a military ball in 2018, which is kind of like a formal dance. It's just something fun for the cadets to do to, show that our hard work is kind of paying off. We definitely plan on going on more flight trips. As we mentioned before, the KC-135, not all of our cadets were able to attend because we are kind of a bigger group. So we definitely want to get all these cadets exposed to such great experiences. I will let Cadet Romero speak about the Intrepid Sea, Air and Space Museum.
Okay, so at our new unit visit, I presented the idea of an Intrepid Sea, Air and Space Museum as a field trip. This will expose cadets to the evolution of planes from what we hear for now. And it also coincides with our air and space curriculum. So he was so impressed with my presentation that he did fund the trip.
The last couple of things, we definitely plan on getting a lot of extracurriculars for the program. Things like Model Rocketry Club and Kitty Hawk Air Society, which is basically like an honor society, but for the cadets. Our color guard is planning on presenting the colors at basketball games, so if you're ever at a basketball game during the winter, you'll probably see us there. And lastly, we definitely plan on doing more drill competitions, which is basically, it's kind of similar to guard, except it's more marching and it's very polished and clean. We went on our first competition, I believe it was Saturday, and it was definitely a growing experience for our cadets. They enjoyed it, and we definitely plan on doing a lot more with it. So I would like to say thank you for your time, and thank you for listening.
With Colonel Spare and Master Sergeant Knowlton. In front of the board.
Mr. Sire. Dr. Labby, I think those two cadets should do both the board president's report and the superintendent's report. They did such a phenomenal job.
Second.
I'll take comments.
What do you say, eggnog or something like that? Mashed potatoes?
What did she say?
Mr. Bashada.
Mr. McEnone, thank you.
My pleasure.
Mr.
I wanted
McEnone, I know
to
you
know
had
that
some
Mr.
comments.
McEnone was one of the
Is this thing on?
key
Yes.
ingredients of bringing this program here to our high school. And it's an honor, being a member of Sayreville Memorial graduating class of 67, to have such a program in this district.
Well, I appreciate that. As you know, this was a 10-year ordeal getting the program here, and I know you want to give me credit for it, but we don't do anything by ourselves on the Board of Ed. And I know that this was one of the things that we actually unanimous on in bringing this program here. And I think it's very fitting to have a program at Sayreville War Memorial High School. And I'm both personally and professionally proud to see that Sayreville kids have this opportunity to be in the program. And I know they left, and it's good things. The Colonel will get mad at me. The Colonel's a very modest individual, but I just want to tell you how fortunate we are to have him running the program. And when he interviewed, I turned to Dr. Labby and said, this is the guy. The Colonel had a 30-year Air Force career as a military pilot, and then he did a good stint of that in the reserves, and he was also, he flew for 22 years for American Airlines. He flew every Boeing airplane that Boeing's ever made, and chances are you may have been on one of his flights. So to have him and that caliber of individual instructing the program is, we're very fortunate. And Sergeant Knowlton was a medic in the military for 20 years, active duty, and as the Colonel knows, and it's always good to have a medic with you when you're doing things. So we're real fortunate to have the program here, and no pun intended, I think it's really going to take off in the future and have hundreds of kids involved in the program. So again, I want to thank the board for your patience over the course of 10 years and finally seeing the program here. So it gives you a sense of accomplishment, and I appreciate the words, Mr. Bishaka.
Thank you, Mr. McEnone. I'd also like to extend my congratulations to all the groups recognized tonight. Sayreville girls soccer, first white division in history, phenomenal accomplishment. You made history for the school. The girls tennis team, GMC white division champions, undefeated. Again, congratulations, a remarkable accomplishment. The students who designed the Sayreville University logo, we've really developed over the past several years Sayreville University into be more than just a professional development day. So to have, your logo and your mark as the trademark of that phenomenal program really means a lot in terms of your artistic talent and your contribution to that program. And it really helps contribute to the message and the value that that program brings for our professional staff. And finally, the junior ROTC program. Mr. McEnone, you're right. We do things as a team here, but that was your vision. That was something that you had spearheaded. And I have to say, it was something that you were absolutely persistent and dogged about in terms of following up to make sure that we were considered. So I really appreciate that. And just seeing the program take hold here, seeing the tremendous growth of the program, seeing the leadership in the students and the cadets as they come up, the way they stand up straight, the way they're able to present, the way they present the colors. It's also going to be an honor for me when the NSBA board comes here December 4th to have the Air Force Junior ROTC present the colors at my alma mater when they come to visit our high school. And I'm glad that they're going to be an integral part of that program. So congratulations to all of those groups that we recognize today. Thank you so much for being here. Anyone else comments? If any of you, first of all, you're all welcome to stay for our meeting. We've got a lot of great stuff to discuss, but if you need to baste a turkey or something, you can feel free at this point to, there's a lot of turkey basting going on.
But we thank you very much for coming.
And happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Testing, testing.
We can share.
My daughter used to date Mike's brother Dominic. Mike Pagenza's older brother Dominic. He also teaches at the middle school's wife, Janet. The father just passed away.
Yes.
Yeah, so my daughter used to date Dominic.
Good. How are you?
She said he was too dull. I said, you didn't travel far for the next one. He was almost too dull. I know I am, but it's okay. I can be honest, I'm her mother.
While we're just waiting for people to make their exit, we have the correspondence on the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the October 17th meeting?
So moved.
By Mr. McEnone, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Walsh. Any comments on the minutes? Hearing none, roll call on the minutes, please.
Mr. Balka?
Yes.
Mrs. Batko?
Yes.
Mr. Bishada?
I have to vote that I abstain because I was not present for the meeting.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes.
Mr. McEnone?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Sayak?
Yes. Okay, we have our student council representative here. Mr. Lewis, did you make the team?
It'll be tomorrow.
He won't
Okay.
know. He won't know.
He's
right
looking
away.
mighty tired, though.
He
Coach
looks
Wojcik
beat.
appears to be working him and the whole team.
Yeah, transfer yesterday and today, and the last day will be tomorrow, and that's when the team will be decided. I do want to apologize for being late. I tried as soon as possible to get here. What has happened before this meeting as homecoming. I know I wasn't here at the past meeting either, so backtrack, and we had homecoming, and pep rally was that same day. During homecoming, we did a different strategy this year, and we had some games and more got the crowd involved. So during pep rally, so during homecoming, even though we did lose, a lot of people were really spirited and came out. Unified soccer was last week. There was a lot of practices, and then the game was last Thursday. I saw some familiar faces. I actually participated with them, so it was a very nice experience to help them out, and really it was great to see them smile and squirgle. And that was great. So, and then I would also I know that you guys congratulated the fall sports. They really had a heck of a season, a lot of them. And then I also want to introduce the new winter ones like basketball, wrestling, all those other ones. At the school, we have the Thanksgiving drive. There's a lot of festivities with holidays. It's a good thing that not actually you skip over Christmas. You know, some people just skip over Christmas, but skip over Thanksgiving. But there's Thanksgiving drives, there's Thanksgiving grams, and the National Honor Society is actually raising money and doing these Thanksgiving grams, and actually are raising money for cancer, which is great. And the National Honor Society is also doing the hurricane drive for those impacted, as did ROTC. The color run happened. I was not able to participate, but I heard that went really smoothly. It's always a well-run activity with all that. The school play, it was the last year that Dr.
Picuro.
Yes. Sorry. It was last year that he did it, so it was a really great show. And then the Shrek the Musical, they're doing auditions for that, so that's going to be in the spring. Don't miss it. Halloween, we got a little festive with the teachers. They actually did some costumes, all that. It was good, so it was a fun day, but we also learned still too.
Well, that's important.
Yes, of course. Looking ahead, Student Council doing the senior center trip. So we go to the senior center up the road over here in Sayreville, and 10 or 15 people from Student Council, we actually Christmas carol for them. So they actually really get excited. You know, we do some raffles and rallies and stuff like that. So we give them out, help them out, and do some Christmas caroling. We're also thinking of doing a movie night. We did this last year, so it would be a toy drive. You come in, it's not like mandatory, but it is to get in. Like we're acting as the toy drive is the admission. So it'd be all given to charity and all the toys for Christmas coming up there. Door decorating, also to get into the teachers will be decorating doors as well as students to raise awareness, you know, for Christmas, all that holiday festivities around that time. And really, most of the things are after break, and we'll be kind of surfacing that with the activity as well. I did want to bring something up, and I'll talk about it more next meeting. There's this thing that I've become aware of. It's called the Physics Day for Six Flags. Now, I know we need your approval for this. It's the Physics Day. It's basically the physics classes. Now, I'm not saying all of them, but the physics classes Six Flags offers open to the park. It's not public. It's just open to whatever students study physics, and it will just be, you know, you go and you'll have. I never went to it, but I'm pretty sure you can go on rides, you can have fun, but you'll learn about the physics of the coasters, of all that stuff. So I know a lot of people in my class, once they became aware of it, since I'm in physics, they were really interested about it. I really don't have a lot of information on what I can give to you right now to like make my case as with transportation, safety, all that stuff, but I just want to throw it out there right now. So I'll get back more next meeting.
And I think on that one, you should have the physics teacher, if there's a physics club advisor, basically put together a proposal and get it to Mr. Gluhusky with how it relates to the core standards and what exact activities would be going on, and it would be evaluated from there.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Sine?
Yes, Mr. Basham.
One question. I was on Legislators' Day on Friday, and I had junior class, and they were really not familiar that you're the board liaison, and they're not sure who's on the student council, if they have issues to bring forward, to the student council to present to the administration. So what I would ask is that maybe you could send a memo out, or somehow maybe over the PA system in the morning or whatever, let them know, and let your other student council members address like the freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior class who their representatives are, okay?
Yeah, I'll definitely talk to the other people on the board, and we'll make something happen.
Thank you.
Any other comments for our student representative?
I'd like to commend the student council and express my gratitude to you for going to the senior center. I had the opportunity last year to go to the Arlith chorus concert there, and the reception by the seniors was incredible. You really don't appreciate how much of a difference you make when you go there until you do go there. So, my commendations to all of you for choosing that. I know that Arlith is going there as well again this year, and the Truman School is going there too, and they are more than thrilled that you're going to be going there to entertain them, to mingle with them, and more importantly, just to demonstrate that you care. So thank you guys very much.
No problem. It's actually a fun event for both of us. We actually
It's incredible.
both sides really get into it and have a lot of fun. So.
Good for you.
And Mr. Lewis, I also want to thank you for a very well-rounded and comprehensive report on what's going on at the high school. I mean, I think you touched on everything from curricular to co-curricular, the arts, student council, sports. It was a very, very comprehensive report that really shows that, no matter what our students are involved in, that it's important and they matter.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Again, you're welcome to stay. If you need to go baste a turkey or something, you can feel free to do that, and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. I do need to do my homework, so.
Okay, very good.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Good night.
Happy Thanksgiving. I'll see you next meeting. Thank
Sounds
you.
great.
And
Thank
good
you.
luck. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, we are moving on now to our superintendent's report. Dr. Labby?
Would you like to do highlights first, Mrs. Bacco?
Yeah, we can try that. Yeah. Mrs. Bacco, how about we do
I don't want to
How
miss
about
the highlights.
I wouldn't want to miss it. A very special thank you goes to the Sayreville South Amboy Rotary Club for their annual donation of dictionaries to each and every third grade student in the district. We truly appreciate their generosity and thoughtfulness. We would also like to thank the Sayreville Volunteer Fire Department and Fire Marshal Kevin Krasinski for coordinating members of the fire department to go to each of the elementary schools, including the Little Stars program at the Sillover School. The fire department helps educate our students on fire prevention and what to do in the event of a fire. The firemen also gave the students a close-up look at a fire truck. All of the children enjoyed this exciting opportunity. The Sayreville War Memorial High School play, The Good Doctor, was held on November 3rd and November 4th. These performances were especially poignant and moving as this was the final curtain call for Dr. Michael Picuro, drama teacher and the director of the Sayreville War Memorial High School Theater Department. Dr. Picuro will be retiring as of December 31st after directing plays at the high school for 36 years. Mr. James Kraft will be directing the senior play later in the school year. We wish Dr. Picuro the very best in his retirement.
Thank you, Mrs. Bacco. And since it was mentioned twice, I also want to recognize and congratulate Dr. Picuro on his retirement. He's done an outstanding job here at Sayreville War Memorial High School as the theater director. Directed countless plays. You basically walk along the walls of the auditorium and you see the legacy that he's been able to leave from a theatrical standpoint.
Please don't walk on the walls.
Pardon?
Please don't walk on the walls.
Oh, well, thank you. But he's done a phenomenal job as theater production advisor as well as a teacher of theater as well. And I really want to thank him. Dr. Labby and I were both able to attend his final performance. I know that some of the other board members may have been able to attend on one of the other nights, but really it's a career well spent, and we're very thankful that he was able to spend it here. Dr. Labby, superintendent's report.
Okay, I bring your attention to finance and infrastructure. Among all of those motions, the two most important are we're asking you to approve the amendment to the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, or the Every Student Succeeds Act. We did have carryover from last year's grant that we want you to apply to this year's grant. Also, similar to last month, we are declaring obsolete and putting up for sale a bus for our Gov Deals. We made quite a bit of money on the buses that we declared obsolete last month and sold through Gov Deals. We're hoping, and those were buses that couldn't operate. This bus is a 54-seater that can operate, so we're hopeful to also get a good deal of money for that. Any questions on finance and infrastructure? Seeing none, moving on. Student achievement. We naturally have some co-curricular activities and trips planned. Most notably, the AP night and freshman orientation at the high school on Wednesday, February 7th from 5:30 to 9 p.m. in the auditorium and the cafeteria. That's always a big night here in Sayreville. Also, a big day in Sayreville is the Olive Elementary School Autism Awareness Fair, and they also couple that with a car wash. That will be on April 21st this year from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Arlington. Any questions on student achievement? Seeing none. Governance, we're asking you to once again approve Lorianne Dobrzinski to serve as our designee for the Board of Education with the Sayreville Public Library. She'll be on their Board of Trustees for the 2017-18 school year. She has done a phenomenal job, and we thank her incredibly for the amount of sacrifice and service that she has provided the district in that capacity. We're also asking you to approve the annual memorandum of agreement between the Board of Education and law enforcement. As you are all aware, we have to sign a memorandum of agreement or understanding with the Sayreville Police Department, the Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office, and New Jersey Department of Education. And then finally, we're asking you to adopt the memorandum of agreement between the Sayreville Board of Education and the Sayreville Education Association. However, we want to make some corrections to the motion, so I'm going to read the motion in its entirety so that I can include the notes that we've had to add. Number 4, on governance, and this is on the addendum. The superintendent recommends and so moves the Board of Education of Sayreville to hereby adopt the memorandum of agreement between the Sayreville Board of Education and the Sayreville Education Association dated November 20th, 2017. Direct and authorize the board's administration to finalize the collective bargaining agreement between the Sayreville Board of Education and the Sayreville Education Association covering the period from July 1, 2017 through June 30, 2020, which shall incorporate the terms of the memorandum of agreement, and direct and authorize the board's administration to take all necessary and appropriate steps to implement this action, and authorize the Board of Education president to execute the final contract.
Any comments on this item? Mrs. Bacco, since you chaired the SEA negotiating committee, would you like to just give an overview of the contract itself?
Sure. We started probably this process early in the winter, maybe around March, in working towards coming to an agreement for a new contract. Before I just would like to thank the SEA and the negotiating team on their side for their professionalism during this process, and I think we got through it without too many bumps in the road. One of the major priorities that the negotiating team looked at in this contract was to raise our starting salary for teachers. Our concern has been over the years in our teacher turnover and many of our teachers leaving to get exorbitant raises in other districts. So that we were able to accomplish in this contract. We had some minor changes in healthcare, but we are staying at the Chapter 78 framework. The total percentage for the entire unit was approximately 12% over 3 years, and those were probably the major changes that were done in the contract. The memorandum includes all the new salary guides, so we are pretty much done with this process, and we signed it yesterday.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Bacco. I also want to make some comments. First of all, I really want to thank the SEA and the board's negotiating committee. Certainly, negotiations were cordial. I think they were professional. Certainly, I think they were a little heated at times, but that's part of the negotiation process, and the team was able to get through it. I'd also like to thank Dr. Labby, Dr. Shediak, Mr. Glock-Malloy, Mr. Bashada, Mrs. Batko, and Mrs. DePinto. Out of everything that we do as school board members, there is nothing that is more time-consuming, more stressful, and more detailed-oriented than negotiating a contract with the largest union in the district. And it takes a lot of time, it's a lot of stress, and it's a lot of, arguing, debating back and forth, trying to reach a resolution. And I know that everyone who was part of this process felt that stress at some point, and I really want to thank all of you for all of the time and effort that you've put in order to reach an agreement. The board had made it a priority from the beginning that, as Mrs. Batko said, we wanted to fix our salary guide, at least to the extent possible. And we wanted to make this a place where we could attract the right quality teacher at step one, and at the same time ensure that that right quality teacher, once we invest 2 or 3 years in developing them, remains with the Sayreville Public Schools. Because all of us know that the most important factor in education is the teacher in the classroom, and we've got research that backs that up. And the second most important factor, by the way, is the principal or administrator of the building, and we've got research which backs that up. It's a team approach. Now, accomplishing that, you also need to know, is no small task financially. And the board is making a significant financial investment in order to close that gap and bring our teachers on par. But the board felt that it was our teachers' turn and that needed to be done in order to remain competitive and, quite frankly, in order to improve the morale in the district and recognize our professionals. The challenge that we're going to face as a board going forward is funding this agreement. We've done a 3-year roll forward, and I'm not going to quote a number because there's a lot of debate on what that number should be. But let's just say that we're concerned that there is a gap over the next 3 years in terms of how we're going to fund this contract. Now, if Governor Murphy delivers on his promise and additional state aid comes through and health benefits come in at a renewal rate much less than what we planned in the forecast, and we get a few more people who reach the end of their career and decide to retire than we anticipated, then we're going to save a whole bunch of money, and that's going to make this process a lot easier in terms of funding it. If those same instances all go in the opposite direction, we're going to be facing some significant challenges that we're going to need to face together. And it's not just a result of the teacher's contract, it's also a result of all the decisions that we've made as a team. And we voted to fund campus monitors to make sure that our students are safe. We voted to invest in technology. We voted to hire a director of human resources to beef up the administrative team associated with our director of pupil personnel services and our special education department. We've made all of these investments, and now the next 3 years we've got a challenge. We've just got to make sure that we can sustain them and that we continue the high level of education that we offer here in Sayreville. But again, thank you very much to the negotiating team, to the SEA, and to our administration for all the work and investment that you've made.
Unfortunately, I have to abstain on number 4.
Anyone else? Comments on the contract or comments on governance?
I'd just like to echo your comments, Kevin, and thank Phyllis and the negotiating team for taking on a task that is very difficult at that very time-consuming, like Kevin said. And again, the teacher is the most important thing in the classroom, and I'm glad we're taking steps to get closer to where we need to be. But just like Kevin said, I think going forward, our town, we are still a representative democracy up here. Whether it's going to be going out to the town in the future for where we're falling behind facilities and other things, we're going to have to be creative going forward with some of these things that we need to get funded. And I think it's important that the citizens in our town understand in a 2% cap world, we have to look at some other options of we only have this pool of money. Whether we go out for a new field, for a new school, it's not just the people up here. Our town's going to have to decide what we want to invest in our children and in our facilities. And I think this is a good step in the right direction. But we're going to be tighten our belt moving forward, but looking forward to maybe some other creative ways to not lose all the ground that I think we've gained in the last few years. I think our programs have been going in such a great direction, and that's due to the hard work of our teachers in the classroom, so they should be rewarded for that also, but we don't want to take any steps backwards. So again, thank you for the hard work, and I look forward to working our tail off to figure out how to do some of these other things and not lose ground. But again, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Mr. Machado.
Just one comment. Mrs. Batko, thank you for your hard work.
Anyone else? Okay, Dr. Labby.
Before we move to the next agenda component, I too want to make commendations to all the Board of Education members that participated in all of the collective bargaining over the past year. That's not only collective bargaining with the SEA, that's also with the Teamsters, the supervisors, and the principals, all of which we had this year. And to that extent, I would like to commend and thank Miss Hill, for the incredible work that she has performed during all of this.
many of negotiations, Ms. Hill was creating spreadsheets by scratch, scattergrams, and so forth, checking numbers at an incredibly fast rate of speed. She truly did demonstrate how very proficient and how very competent she is in her position, and more importantly, how very fortunate we are to have her in this district.
I've got to be absolutely red right now. Ms. Hill, I apologize. That was an oversight. I absolutely know the contributions that you have made to this negotiation process. I looked to my left, I just saw the three of them, and I really apologize. You know that you and I have worked a lot together on this, and we've had a lot of conversations, and you were the one that put together the three-year forecast that showed us where this thing was going to be from a financial standpoint. So again, thank you very much for all of your work with this, and my apologies.
Fine, thank you.
Moving along to Vision 20. You did. But I just didn't want to miss the opportunity to
Thank you for pointing it out. Yeah.
Moving along to Vision 2030 personnel, we are confronted yet again with another one of those bittersweet moments in which we have to say goodbye and say thank you to a beloved staff member, but also wish that person all the best in their retirement. So Thomas Gentile, our supervisor of social studies, related arts, extracurricular activities, and anything else we could pile on, has decided to retire. Thomas, or better known as Tom, Gentile's career as an educator has spanned over 40 years. His impact on students and educators alike has cast a net far and wide. In September of 2006, Mr. Gentile began his tenure in the Sayreville School District serving as the supervisor of humanities. When not working as a teacher or administrator, Thomas served as an adjunct professor, passionately teaching generations of adults to achieve their life goals and ambitions. From 1976 through 2002, Mr. Gentile served as the program director of our English as a Second Language, as the English as a Second Language program at the St. Peter's College, as well as a professor in the program at the same time. In 1982, Tom became one of the first professors of education to work with adults trying to become teachers through the alternate route program. He has continued to work as an adjunct professor in this program to the present day. Mr. Gentile has also served as an adjunct professor in the St. Peter's College, now St. Peter's University graduate program, where he has served classes, provided classes in supervision, assessment, law, research, and curriculum. In 2016, in recognition of his 40 years of service, Tom was awarded the Double Bean Meritee Award from St. Peter's University. With such a long and distinguished career and his dedication to help his students and his adult students achieve their goals, I think we can all agree that Tom has more than earned his retirement. We all wish him a happy and healthy retirement, and we thank him for his service to the students, faculty, and staff of the Sayreville Public Schools. Also, we are proud to ask you to appoint some new certificated and non-certificated staff members. You'll find them in motions 8, 9, and 31 on pages 19 through 21 in the addendum. And finally, number 25, which can be found on page 27, we're asking you to retroactively approve the salaries for our custodians, maintenance workers, groundskeepers, stockroom clerk, and truck driver for the school year 2017-18. And that concludes personnel as well as the superintendent's report.
Do you have any comments on the superintendent's report?
Yes, I would have to say a few words for my friend Tom Gentile. Tom was my supervisor for 6 years, and you could not ask for a nicer, kinder, sweeter man. He knew nothing about art, but he did his best. That whenever he came into my room, he was always impressed, which was nice. He's not well, but we love him with all our heart, and we wish him the very best and the best of health in his retirement.
I'd also like to echo that as well and thank Mr. Gentile for his years of service to Sayreville, from overseeing the band to humanities to the arts. He's done a great job here. He's always also been the one who has organized and led every single year the Back to School for Legislators Day, and that's been such an integral part of our program here at the high school. And I'm really appreciative of all the time that he's put in and the team that he's built within the history department of the district. Any other board member comments on the superintendent's report?
D number 8, page 19, I'm going to vote no on the phys ed teacher.
Okay. Any other comments?
Should I do my vote?
What, pardon?
I'm going to vote now. Should I do that now?
You have comments?
I just did the vote.
Oh, yeah,
All right.
you want to give the report now?
Yeah, on number 8, page 19, I'm going to vote no on the phys ed teacher for the reason that it's the position starting at step 6.
Okay, but look at the salary. It's not a big salary.
Yeah, hang on a second.
Yeah, this makes no sense.
I have to ask this question. And I know that this was prepared before we've negotiated the contract. But now that we've got a contract that's about to be settled, can we bring the person in at step 1 and
Same money.
give them $1 more? And again, I know you did this before the contract was settled, so do we want to table this, or just?
What's the start date?
It wouldn't be step 1.
January.
January 23rd.
We can revisit it with the candidate. They negotiate the year's experience that the person has on the salary guide. So, if you want us to go back and do that, you do run the risk of losing the candidate.
But there were no other candidates?
I'm not aware that there were no other candidates. There were other candidates. This was the best candidate. That's, again, we've been through this. My job is to find the best candidates for positions. So if you want to table that, I'll have Dr. Aguiles meet with that person and renegotiate the step on the guide. But as you mentioned before, you said just a moment ago that we've had teachers in the past that have gone other places. And those places give them the years of experience, and they put them on their guides based upon their years of experience. That's how we place them on the guide. So you're going to ask this person who has been teaching for 6 years to take less than that. You run the risk of losing that candidate, who, again, a committee of people felt was the best candidate, and that was confirmed by Dr. Aguiles when Dr. Aguiles met with that person. But I'll do that if you want to table this.
Mr. McEnon, you've got a
Before
comment?
you do that, what is the salary on the new contract, step 6? We should be able to find that out pretty quick, right?
Do you have that on you?
I have it on me, yeah. I could look it up. Do you have it in
I
your
don't know.
Mine's in
laptop?
in there.
I mean, you negotiate a salary, not a step.
Oh, wait,
Excuse
I
me?
have it right
You
on my
negotiate a
phone.
salary, not a step.
You negotiate their step. That's what you negotiate. You negotiate their step.
Yeah, but you negotiate that step for a
Yeah, but it's
particular
not
salary.
50. It's we don't hit 50.
Like I said, if you
No, I'm
want,
just curious what the new salary is.
When the new contract goes into place, if they're on step 6, I'll move to step 6.
Yeah, I'm asking what that amount is.
What the step 6 is for 17-18? 53.2. For a BA. Was this a BA?
yes.
Yeah, for a BA.
But it's also the compounding effect, because then, step 6 goes to 7, goes to 8.
Right,
That's where
because the higher increments are higher up. So if you wanted,
You're talking a difference of $4,000.
Yeah.
Or not even, $3,000. But I'll do that if you want to.
One of the issues, Mr. Sack, in negotiations was this was brought up to us, bringing personnel in at a higher step, but the increments will cost the district more money over a period of time. That's directly from the SEA.
What's the board's thoughts?
I'm okay with tabling it. I'll make a motion to table it.
Okay, I have a motion to table. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
By Mr. Bishada. Any remarks? Roll call to table.
Mr. Bauka?
Yes.
Mrs. Becco?
Yes?
Mr. Bishada?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
No.
Mrs. DePinto?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
I'll say no only because I think, we put Dr. Labby in a bad position here. If he negotiated something with someone, now has to go back. That person, I don't know if they made plans
if they turn down other opportunities to come here, I think we're putting everybody in a bad position here. So I'm going to say no. Going forward, perhaps we should look into it, but for this particular situation, I'll say no.
Mr. McAgnone?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
No.
And Mr. Syak?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, that item is tabled.
Could I just for clarification purposes, I know we discussed this during negotiations, and I discussed it with Dr. Labby, and we had talked about, so assuming this person got hired at a BA, step 6 at 49, they would stay on step 6, but they would get that difference in money, correct? So they wouldn't actually be starting at 49, they'd be starting at whatever the new step 6 was, correct?
Correct.
Okay, any other comments on the superintendent's report? All right, hearing none, we'll open it up to public for any comments concerning any item on the agenda. If you wish to speak, please state your name and address for the record. Yes, please come to the microphone.
Hi, my name is Wendy Castlegrant. My address is 87 Bonehurst Avenue, Sayreville, New Jersey. I'm a parent. I have 3 students in Sayreville, and it's been great. My kids are happy, they're learning, and I have great things to say about Sayreville, but one thing I want to bring awareness on is ASL, American Sign Language.
Ma'am, is this is something on the agenda, or is this just any item concerning the district?
Oh, this is just an open comment. Is that for the end?
Yes.
Oh,
If you can
okay.
wait, we're probably only going to be about another 10 minutes,
Oh,
and then
okay, I'm
we'll
sorry.
take that. We'll take your comment at that point.
I wasn't sure when.
No, we fully understand. Any comments on anything on the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll close public, and I'll take a motion to approve the superintendent's report, minus the one item which has been taken.
So moved.
By Mrs. Bloom, do I have a second?
Second.
By Mr. Walsh. Any comments? Hearing none, roll call.
Mr. Balca?
Yes, with item noted.
Can I just get clarification? D number 8, is it now a yes, or is it only that one item that you had?
C number 4, abstain.
Right, but D number 8, you're okay with the rest of it?
I voted yes to table it, so we're tabling it, yes. That's all.
Only
Just
that
that
one?
one.
Okay.
One individual
Yes.
being tabled.
Okay.
That
Mrs. Bacco?
Yes.
Mr. Bashada?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes, but Erin, I have to abstain on governance number 4, the SEA contract.
Mrs. DePinto?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes.
Mr. McAgnone?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Syak?
Yes. Okay, moving on to committee reports. Any committees have reports?
Buildings and Grounds.
Buildings and Grounds?
We had our meeting this evening at 6 o'clock. Prior to our meeting, the windows for Arleth will be coming in the middle of January with delivery, and the contractor expressed a desire to install the windows one day at a time, said they can be done. The trim and punch list is still not completed. CME has given us a summation of what's wrong with the baseball field, our baseball field out here. I would recommend, and I believe my committee would recommend also, that we don't worry about repairing it for this year. The team could play in the South Amboy field. The only thing would be transportation. Am I correct, Lucy and
Yes.
You're correct. Yep.
That was our recommendation.
Okay, Aaron went over with what the Finance Committee went over about the gov deals, and that we liquidated some non-functional assets that showed a profit, and we're going to put more dog signs around the school properties. Evidently, some citizens don't realize that you can't walk your dog on school property and not clean up after the animal. So we're going to make it quite aware, and we're going to ask the police to, if they catch people on school property with their animal, that possibly a warning and then a citation.
Do we have an ordinance?
With no policy.
That's it for buildings and
Can the police
grounds.
enforce it if there's no ordinance? No.
Thank you, Mr. Shada. Any other committee reports?
Want finance?
Sure.
Here we go. I'll be quick. So we met last week, and am I too close?
Yes,
Too loud?
very
Okay. And couple items, gov deals to speak to a little bit, I guess various items around the district that we had laying around. Erin, I guess you orchestrated this, which was pretty awesome. We generated about $3,000 for that merchandise that would have ordinarily just been sitting in our storage facilities, so kudos to you, good job. We had a meeting, a conference call with a marketing company. The name escapes me, I should have it somewhere. But anyway, they were giving us various ways that we could generate revenue in the district. And most of it was through advertising. Local companies, local businesses would advertise on our websites, on our Soup Talk, banners at games, basketball court. I think they were talking about putting logos on the court, if that was even, we were going to check into to see if we were allowed to do that. But I believe he thought we were going to be $6,000 to $12,000 the first year in revenues, just to get off the ground. So that's not a bad start. So we're going to continue there, and I think by hopefully the next board meeting, we'll get your feedback on that. We'll have a lot more information on that. What else? Oh, as far as equipment that we're going to buy, we're getting 2 warmers for the middle school for pizza ovens that are well needed. They've needed that for quite a while, and we're buying those two new ovens for them. And I believe we're getting a new, is it walk-in refrigerator for Wilson? Or reach-in refrigerator for Wilson. What we did was, we did a comparative analysis as to how much it would cost to get it fixed versus buying new, and it just makes total fiscal sense to buy a new one. So we're getting a new refrigerator there. Did we purchase that yet?
I believe it's in the works right now,
Okay,
yeah.
great. And our new bus came in, right? We just got a
Yes.
bus. Did we put it into service yet?
It should be in service within the next
Okay.
week or so.
Great. So we got a brand new 24-seater bus that we approved a couple of meetings ago. And I don't know if I missed anything. Did I miss anything? I think we're good. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Esposito.
You're welcome.
Any other?
Mr. Sack, I forgot one thing out of the report for the buildings in the ground. There's been a question about fencing in the wood shop area, the auto shop area. Our supervisor of buildings and grounds had gotten a quote for a 6-foot-high fence for $8,340. So that's something that the board will discuss either now or in the future about enclosing that area. So I would recommend, well, whatever anybody decides they want to talk about.
Okay. Any other items?
I'd like to make one comment. Personnel committee did not meet, but I'd like to say I'm very concerned as the chair of the personnel committee that maybe we're not interested in hiring experienced teachers anymore. In 2005, I was a step 8 teacher who left tenure in Woodbridge to come teach here. I guess this board wouldn't have hired me. I trust the people who make our personnel decisions. I think the people we've brought in here are excellent, both our new teachers and the ones. I know we got some hard decisions to make, but it worries me greatly that if we have a staff if we have a superintendent and assistant superintendents and principals who form a committee and they find the best candidate and we turn that down on, I don't know what. I think we're setting a scary precedent. I don't think educators that'll be on the board soon will feel the same way, but I think it's a bad precedent to set. I hope that's not the way we go forward. That's just as chair of personnel.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Any other, student achievement, Mrs. Pinto?
I was not at the last one.
You were not at the last one?
No.
Mrs. Bloom, were you at the?
I think Marilyn has.
Dr. Shediak?
Okay, sure. Hold on, give me 1 second.
I don't have, I was there, but I don't have it.
We talked a little bit about the standard-based grading and the standard-based report card. We had a meeting for parents at SAMSL back in October, and we had about 44 parents who actually attended, and we did videotape it. It's still available online if parents want to see it. And the consensus, I think, from the parents that were there was that they had a much better understanding of the new grading system. And so we talked about that. Okay, thank you. And then we talked a little bit about the progress reports for grades K through 5.
and we talked about the Fontes and Pinnell classroom materials, that they've been generally well received. Unfortunately, one set of materials due to production we did not get until October, but we're working our way through that. We provided the teachers with some staff development on that on Staff Development Day. The high school career academies, the committee is continuing to work, and they've actually developed a list of some potential course sequences for academies, and several members of the committee within the past few weeks have gone out to visit some schools that have academies in place. So we're looking forward to their feedback, which we'll be getting shortly. And Algebra 1 and Grade 8 Math, at the last board meeting, Mrs. Batko had asked about our percentage of students as compared to the rest of New Jersey who take Algebra 1 as 8th graders. And in Sayreville, 78% of the 8th graders take Algebra 1. That's compared to, across the state, 34%. So we more than double the state rate for students who are completing Algebra 1 as grade 8 students. So we talked a little bit about that at the meeting. And that was pretty much the summary I have of a what we question, spoke about. if I may.
Yes, Mr. Esposito.
I'm going to give you what they call the proverbial softball, okay? I'm going to give you an
Sure.
opportunity here to knock this one out of the park. Okay.
So, the sentiment out there is that we're not communicating to the public as far as, I know with these standard-based report cards, they're no longer getting progress reports, but to my knowledge, I see that we've advertised it ad nauseum when these progress reports will be coming out.
Yes.
It's a little different than it was prior when we had, I guess, regular report cards. I don't know what you want to call it.
Right.
So can you please just reiterate that we do let people know and how people can see when these progress reports will be coming out for their children?
Sure. For K through 5 parents, the students in kindergarten through 5th grade, if they are not making satisfactory progress or if they're struggling with attaining the grade level standards, at the midpoint of the trimester, a progress report is sent home to those parents. Parents are also encouraged to reach out to their teachers. The teachers are more than happy to speak with them. The teachers are sending home graded materials. Granted, the grades look a little bit different. It no longer says 90%. It might say 9 out of 10 on a particular standard. They might have more than one grade on any one assessment. So, we're working to communicate with the parents the best that we can. We encourage the parents, call the teachers, email them. The teachers are very happy to have conversations with the parents about how their children are doing.
Do we advertise those on our website, the progress report dates anywhere? Maybe we should if we don't.
Okay, I know that for the grade 6 through 12, those dates are in the Our Schools booklet. We can certainly make sure that we have, for the upcoming 2 trimesters this year, that we have those dates in place in Our Schools. And from my understanding, the schools did promote to the parents at their individual schools.
I believe you're right.
When they were coming out.
Right.
Dr. Shadea, can we also add that to the head of the class calendar?
Sure.
Because
Yes.
that's what, I usually
Yes.
send that out with my
Good
talk
idea.
soup so that people can
Right.
see that.
Sure.
Any other committee reports?
I don't have a committee report, but we did get a thank you card from the president and vice president of Bridges of Peace. It reads, "Thank you for your help and kind donations to the Bridges of Peace Hurricane Harvey Relief Drive. With your support and generosity, this project was a huge success. Thank you for helping build Bridges of Peace in our world through your love and charity. God bless you, Karen and Diane, the president and vice president of Hurricane Relief." So I just wanted to share that with you.
Okay, thank you. Before I talk about the delegate to New Jersey school boards, just Mr. Walsh, in response to your comments, because I think they're valid, but I also, as I look at this, first of all, I missed the step number on the agenda, which probably isn't hard to believe considering I missed Ms. Hill, who's just sitting right there in front of me earlier today. So I missed the step number on the agenda. Now, I do wish that when we were in executive session that someone who had a concern about this brought it up in executive so that we could have had a more in-depth discussion about the individual's qualifications and why in particular we're hiring a phys ed teacher at step 6. From my particular position, I don't think that we shouldn't ever hire a teacher at greater than step 1. But I also look at it as again, what makes that teacher unique and what is the supply and demand in that particular profession. If we're looking to hire a Mandarin teacher, and there's very few Mandarin teachers out there, we may need to go higher than that step. If we're hiring in another area where there is a supply, again, as I mentioned when we ratified the memorandum of understanding, I think that we're going to have some tough financial challenges, and we're going to have to decide to prioritize where we want to spend those dollars. So that's kind of my thought process on that, and maybe the board needs to have more discussion around, how do we want to go about giving the superintendent direction as to what qualifies going more than step 1, so we don't find ourselves in this situation. As a board, some of us have voted yes, some of us have voted no on step 6, on step 3, on step 1, but we've never ever as a board had a conversation about, well, what is the direction that we want to give our superintendent so we don't wind up in this situation?
Mr. Sayak?
Yes.
If you don't mind me commenting to that, but to Mr. Walsh's point, the point that he was trying to make was that you have some very highly effective teachers in this state that for one reason or another, it could be proximity, it could be they grew up in Sayreville, it could be they just are attracted to what Sayreville's doing and they want to be a part of that, that they'll choose to leave a school district to come here. And when they leave that school district to come here, they want to be compensated at the step that they feel they should be based upon their experience. And again, to the point you made earlier, we were losing teachers because they are going to other districts with their experience, and those districts are paying them for their experience. So we say it all the time, we want to attract the most qualified teachers to put in the classroom with our students. We're not going to get those teachers by telling them that no matter how many years of teaching experience you have, we're putting you at step 1. So I agree. If that's the direction this board wants to go, if you want to settle for less, then give me that direction, and we'll do that. But as far as I'm concerned, I thought the most important factor in learning is the teacher. And that being said, my most important job is to put the most qualified teacher in the classroom with our students.
And I think one thing to remember, and maybe board members don't always remember this because I went through the process, so teacher just does decide in that situation to leave. So I'll use my example. I had 8 years experience. I lost 8 years of sick days. I lost 8 years of personal days, and I was someone who didn't take days off, so it was quite an amount, and that's money. You're losing your tenure. You're giving up a lot, so we want to get that teacher here, and we're just looking at okay, it'll be $1 more, like you said before, or whatever, but they gave up a lot already. And gave up a lot. Now again, what you said, I guess my biggest umbrage was like you said, if we had discussed that earlier, when it was on the agenda, if everyone had a problem with it then, we could have gave some direction to our superintendent or to the personnel committee, which I said, Chair, I'd like to know if that's how the route we're going. But again, the mantra was always, let's get the best. Let's get the best people around our children.
But John, as long as I can remember, the majority of teachers we've hired over the last 10 to 12 years have not been on step 1, they've been on higher steps. I think this only brought up the question was because step 6 that you're starting this person on, the highest salary is in step 1 with this new contract. I think that's what brought the issue up.
Yeah, but
when you negotiate,
but you negotiate the step, so they're not going to stay at. They'll become step 6 on a new contract.
I don't disagree with anything you said about this. What
Right.
I'm saying is that the reason you put somebody on a higher step is to get their salary commensurate with their leaving. That's why you do that.
That's not the only reason. You're closer to the top. Again, you gave up all those other things. I know when I was a pretty in-demand person at the time. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to be humble this time. I had other jobs. And there were, you look at those things. And if you're good at what you do, and you have the opportunity to go somewhere, those things matter. You know, how close am I? How much, I'm giving up a lot. What do I, and again, we can sit here and say, phys ed isn't as important. Well, I disagree with that wholeheartedly, especially in now's thing. But, but again, that's a personal thing for me. I think it's very important. I think we've honored people here nonstop who coach our teams and work with our students, and then we want to say you're not worth as much. No one in our contract has say you're not worth as much as another teacher.
And philosophically, I agree with you, but I'm telling you, over the years, we've done that, exactly that. We've hired people.
Well, that's why I was surprised we tabled it today.
I think the only reason
That's
it's tabled,
why.
I think, was because of the point that Kevin brought up. It's
Right.
the high
But
salaries.
I guarantee, I don't know this person, I don't know any of these people who,
I don't know
but
either.
whoever that person is agreed to come in at step 6 and is sitting there going, wow, I have a great opportunity to go here, I'm probably gonna get approved on a thing tonight. And it was I guarantee, I don't know where they're coming from, but I know when you have an experience, like, only because I've been through it. And when you decide to give up tenure as a teacher, ask a teacher. That is a big, big decision and a big show to me how much they want to move here. Again, I don't know who this is, but I know that's not changes in work are always difficult. When you're a teacher and you're giving up that, and you're giving up, now you're coming down to 3 sick days. So whatever we give, 10 and 3 personal days, when you may have had, when I have Woodbridge after working there for 8 years, and I hadn't really used hardly any, that's a significant amount. And it's a change, that you're willing to make because but again, it's just, as chair of the personnel committee, it struck me as, I know that person, whoever it is going to be in turmoil for a while now because of us, and we may lose them.
And the best example I can give too is I received a lot of negative feedback about a year ago when we brought back a teacher to our district, a phenomenal elementary school teacher, phenomenal. She had 10 years of teaching experience, and she left for whatever reason why she left. And we brought her back at that step rather than lose her. She wanted to come back here. When she was ready to come back, she wanted to come back here. And we brought her back at her step. And there was a lot of negative feedback with regard to that. And that teacher is doing incredibly well, once again. And we are incredibly thankful that she decided to come back to us. But we would have never had the opportunity to get her back had we just not commensurated her experience with her step.
That was approved 7-2.
And look, I think that's
Exactly right.
And that's an example of where this isn't black and white, and I don't think you can give clear guidance. There's an example, that was one of our own that wanted to come back. That, to me, is an extenuating circumstance.
Can I jump in here? I think the key piece here is that the step is commensurate with experience.
Correct.
If you have 5 years of experience, 6 years of experience, you're coming to us, we put you on that step. We don't say, oh, you have 6 years of experience, we're only going to give you credit for 2. That's not the way the system works. However, they did pull that on me in Catholic school. We won't go there. But you get your experience. That's what the contract means. That's what the step means. Unfortunately, we've split our steps, we divided our steps, so some of our people who should be on higher steps are not. But again, they stay with us because they want to be here. When I started here, it was $35,000, so we've made progress, folks.
But some of that criticism, Lucy, came from the union when we put people on higher steps.
Oh, yes, I understand that, because of the fact that people are stuck because they've split steps and they've added steps, which was never done when I was president.
I don't think we can take into consideration, Dr. Labby, and it's a budgetary issue, okay? And I'm in agreement with what John said, 100%, okay? From what you can hear my comments before. In the private sector, you're given an amount and you work with that amount, okay? So if we have to stay within an amount, we try to as best as we can, right? But if someone comes to us that's really good, we should hire them. That's my opinion. And while I am pro-teacher all the way, I really am, I don't think the union should have anything to say with what we, or who we hire and when we hire them. I'm sorry. That's our decision, or your decision here, and our decision to back you up on that. Just an opinion.
Thank you.
Any further comments or
Just,
discussion?
I guess to your point, Ken, it's a discussion we may have to have going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Whether we want this to be a
need
low
give
bid process like other things in education, or we want to.
Or do we simply set a threshold where, above a certain step, it's got to have, the blessing of the Personnel Committee, and then we as a board commit to supporting the Personnel Committee's recommendation?
Listen, it's not unheard of, and I know it's negotiated in some contracts. I think Edison has something to the effect of they won't bring in anyone that's higher than step 4.
Right.
Now, keep in mind, their guide used to be 10 when that was in effect, so there
Their
was
guide's a lot higher, too.
Right, exactly. So, there was
Considerably higher.
method for it. But, again, that's a way for us to compete with them, or other schools that don't, again, what our policy is, that's fine, but we're having it at this poor candidate's expense right now, rather than when we should have had it.
Correct.
And that's my problem with it. These are people on the paper. It's very easy for us to get up here and nickel and dime now instead of before, but there's still people on there.
All right, so we'll have to, and Mr. Walsh, maybe you and I can work together with the Personnel Committee and come up with some type of threshold or recommendation so that we can fix this process, because I know it's.
Thank you.
This particular candidate, can you put it back on the table tonight? Make a motion to untable it.
I motion on table.
Since everybody seems to be agreeing with everybody, it seems like a good opportunity to untable it and vote on it. Get it done.
If you have a motion to
I'll motion
pull it from the
on
table,
table.
we have a motion by Mr.
I'll
Walsh.
second it.
By Mr. McEnow. Motion to pull it from the table. This is not to approve it. This is to put it back on the table for discussion. Roll call?
Mr. Bauka?
This is not to approve, this is discussing.
This is to discuss it. To
You
put
know,
it back on
this is
for
to
a vote.
vote on.
Put it back up for a
This is
vote.
to vote on it.
This is to put it out there
Put
to
it
vote
back
on.
up for a vote.
Can I make I'm just going to throw out a
I don't know if
suggestion
you
here.
can do that.
There may be additional information that we as a board need in terms of this individual's qualifications that cannot be discussed in public. Would it be wise to go into executive at the conclusion of this meeting?
No, Mr. Walsh, just as the head of the Personnel Committee, told us this was the best candidate. And
You've never.
I never met with the candidate. I'm saying but I've always taken the administration's word for who principal of the school, who they think's best, and which I believe it was interviewed by the principal of the school first, and then passed on.
All right, so listen, once we untable it, we can go into executive. This is a motion to put it back on the table for discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Bauka?
that you,
I know, I'm trying to think of how the answer is. Yes, okay, we'll untable it.
Was that a yes? I'm
That's
sorry.
yes.
Yes.
Mrs. Bacca?
No.
Mr. Bashada? I'm sorry?
No.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
yes.
Mr. McAgnone?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
And Mr. Syak?
Yes. Now, with that being said, would the board like to retire into executive session following the conclusion of the meeting to discuss the qualifications of the candidate and why this particular individual is being recommended at step 6?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
This way, if we're going to make a decision, at least we can make an informed decision.
Sure.
Sounds good.
Anyone opposed to that?
Why don't we finish the meeting? We can go and make the decision in executive instead of holding.
No, that was what I was
Then we'll
saying.
come back out.
Yes, then we would come back out,
And
yes.
vote. You gotta come back out and vote.
Yes. All right. So we've got direction on that. We will be retiring into executive session on this individual. All right, with that being said, my committee.
I have a comment, just
Sure.
something, because we sidetracked. At the Finance Committee meeting, we discussed the budget process. Dr. Labby wasn't there, so we didn't really have a calendar yet. But I was under the impression that we had already discussed as a board that we were going to have the budget done in public. And then it came up at the finance meeting, and for some reason, we were not unanimous in the finance meeting. And Mr. Esposito does not want to do the budget in public, but Mr. Bashada and I did. But I had thought we had already made that decision as a board to do it in public.
I thought we did as well.
So I just want to clarify and know that are we doing this budget in public? Because
That's what's
it makes a difference
what's
on
decided.
the schedule and how we proceed.
Yeah, I think we agree we're doing the budget as one body, correct?
Yeah, that's what was decided.
Yeah, I think
In public, okay, all right. I just wanted to clarify, because it came back up again, that's
Can I
all.
put my objection on the record, please? Sure. Because it's not, has nothing to do with transparency. I mean, everything we do is transparent. You can find anything out. What I object to is, the public, let's say there's 30 people there, okay, for argument's sake, I don't know how many would come on a Saturday, but let's say there's 30, and we're talking about cutting 40, $30, $50 items, okay? Quite honestly, I want to get through that first layer before I get any input from any outside source. That's me personally. The second go-around, when we're ready to adopt it and we discuss it, I'd be happy to do it in public. But I just like to, just put it out there that it's a slippery slope. And, quite honestly, I don't want someone's opinion on a $50 item. It's hard enough to get through that process, I'm sure. Okay? And again, at the end, I think I'm all for it when we're ready to adopt it. I think they should be part of it. They're taxpayers, and why shouldn't they have some say? Just the beginning, the first couple of meetings. Just my opinion, that's all.
And in the past, when we've done this, we've typically done it on a Saturday, although I think we talked about doing it in the evening. Typically, there's not a lot of public that show up. Those that are really interested do show up. And even though it's a public meeting, it's not really a public meeting. It's a meeting of the board held in public. So it's the same format as this. The board is sitting in a work session around the table, going through the budget. And at the conclusion of the meeting, we open up to public for any input or discussion. So it's not like a public meeting where we're looking out to the public and saying, listen, we're going to open it up to public. Do you think we should cut from number 2 pencils to number 3 pencils?
Right. Yeah, right, okay. I mean, I guess we could have that. I mean, we're going to do it, so in my opinion, this doesn't even matter. But, what I don't want is, I don't want someone, let's say we have 2 band parents there and we have 2 football parents there, okay? Well, the band parents want equipment and the football parents want new helmets, and we're going to have a discussion about, that's for us to decide. And if you don't like what we do, don't elect us, okay? And that's fine.
And I believe, Dr. Labby, your intent is to present a balanced budget to the board, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that I think will alleviate some of this as well, and that we'll have a balanced budget as opposed to starting out $4 million that we need to cut, and we're starting to cut those $50.
Right. Now, what I thought was a great idea, Phyllis, I think it was your idea, was for Ms. Hill to give us a listing of all the changed items. And
Right,
put
which is
that in
how we used
red.
to do it in the
So we
past.
know right away what we're looking at versus going one by one by one. I mean, that's, we know what's changed.
What's changed from what the building principals had submitted?
No, the change year over year, more or less.
Oh,
Like,
like-
say, for
right.
example, like,
A year-over-year comparison.
Right.
Got it.
I think that will help the process tremendously.
Okay.
It's a great idea. Okay,
All right,
I'm done.
very good. Mrs. Bloom.
Couple of things for
Sure.
discussion, for board discussion. I noticed that when we approved the calendar for 1819, Veterans Day falls on a Sunday, and traditionally we do the federal observation, which is on the Monday, and we haven't made that adjustment. And I know the last time we tried to have school on Veterans Day, all the veterans in town came out and gave us a hard time. That was many years ago. So,
2007.
yeah, this
Yeah, yes, but that was when Veterans Day
was on a weekday.
It was on a weekday.
Weekday.
We have to check back, but I don't believe we've ever closed for Veterans Day when it fell on a weekend.
Right, and we did that this year. This year it was on a weekend, correct?
Saturday.
So we
Yeah, it
didn't
was
take a day
Saturday,
off.
so
Right,
they-
but that-
they
we
rolled it
didn't,
into
no.
the Thursday, Friday thing, but now this is Sunday, so the federal observation is Monday. And if you recall, we did have a member of our staff who decided to take that day off because by law, if it's the federal observation, you can, and then the person had to make it up at the end of the year.
Mr. McEnon, even if the federal observation is on the 12th, the ceremonies and observances are still on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay, just wanted to put that out there. The other piece is, and I already mentioned this to Dr. Labby, we were here the other night for the Hall of Fame committee meeting, and as we were leaving, we noticed that the students for the SAT, PSAT prep classes were coming in, and the building was unlocked, and there was no security in the front hall. So to me, that's a security issue. We've hired all the security guards, and we've made sure our buildings are secure during the day. We have to make sure that they're secure at night, because anyone could have walked in that door. Now I'm being a little extreme, but anyone could walk in that door and leave a device in this building and walk out, and there's no one checking.
Yeah, I've discussed that at 2 PTO meetings, and the parents are concerned about that. And I told them it's, first steps, right? This year we hired them for the school, the school hours, and hopefully next year, as a board, we can move that a little forward. And while any events are going on in the schools, we can have someone here present checking people in and out, hopefully.
Okay, but my question actually was, now, we know that, say, the class started we were leaving at about 5, so I'm assuming the class started at 5:30.
4:45.
4:45, okay. So how long do they leave the door unlocked? Do you leave the door unlocked for half an hour and then lock it so no one else can come in the building? Or is it
I think it's open till 7:15.
just left unlocked? You know, that would be something. If you just had them leave it for a period of time and then lock it.
We'll look into that and
Yeah.
discuss that with Mrs. Sokola and the custodians that are here at that time.
Yeah, because I mean, that just seemed to make sense. You know, the kids are going to be coming in within a half an hour, 45-minute period, then the door should be locked. I mean, I didn't stop back to check and see if it was locked later on, but my thought was, gee, if they leave it open for the whole time that the class is in session, that's like, you know, an invitation, so.
Good observation. That's it.
That's it.
Just an update, it's been up there for about a half hour now. The delegate to the New Jersey School Boards Association. I have been actually on the road for the last 2 weeks, and I visited Idaho, Wyoming, Michigan, Oregon, Ohio, Connecticut. I think there might have been 1 or 2 other states in there someplace, and it wasn't in that order either. It's been a phenomenal experience getting to see different school districts in different states and the way that they handle public education, the initiatives that they do. I saw one school in Idaho where, and I almost wonder with the park testing that we have in New Jersey, because they're part of a smarter balance test, it's not the park, if their school and their students would be a success. But it was a public school, it was under the auspices of the Coeur d'Alene Board of Education, and the entire school, K-5, was all project-based learning. So students were all doing self-discovery, self-inquiry, self-directed projects. I saw the teacher there solely as a facilitator. They were working in groups. They had a club after school that raises chickens to lay eggs that they then sell in the community to raise money for field trips, to go on expeditions, to support the self-directed learning that they're doing. I saw another school that was in Wyoming, where, and of all places, Wyoming, that's not where you would think that they would be doing this, just, you know, wide open fields. But they've got a school there, again, under the auspices of the Board of Education, where the students are doing a fully immersed Mandarin program. So I saw 5th graders conversing with their teacher in Mandarin fluently, probably better than I speak English, and certainly better than someone who's only, you know, taking Spanish, you know, 1 or 2 periods or even in a block throughout high school. They were fully immersed in this language. And it's been a great opportunity to see so many of the programs that have been offered throughout the schools. I went to one of the state conferences, the Ohio School Boards Association, and they do something unique where they set up actual booths to have school programs exhibited so that, you know, board members can take a look at the innovative programs that are happening in the school districts in their state, except they don't have the advisors or the teachers front and center. They've got the students presenting. So we got to see one program called Guys with Ties, which is an urban elementary school, high poverty rate, and they formed this after-school club so that they could teach these young men to be gentlemen, how to tie a tie, how to set the table, how to have a firm handshake, how to make eye contact, how to speak to people, how to give presentations. And it was just a great opportunity to see all of these things that are happening. On the public education front, from the legislative front, certainly NSBA is concerned about the new bills which are going through for a tax reform. New Jersey has a significant stake in one of them with regard to the state and local income tax deduction, which is poised to be eliminated by the bills that are going through the Congress. In addition to that, there's also bills as part of the reform package which also support the utilization of College 529 plans for private schools and private K-12 education. So those are things that I urge you to contact your member of Congress and urge them to oppose so that College 529 plans can only be used for college and not to divert, you know, funds from public education. And then again on the state level with our new governor, hopefully we will get some additional state funding as a result of the initiatives that he's pushing when he becomes governor in January. So that's just a brief summary on my travels. As I mentioned earlier, we're also having the NSBA Board of Directors come here in Sayreville on Monday, December 4th. Dr. Labby has set up and organized a phenomenal program both here at the high school as well as the upper elementary school. They're going to get a chance to visit our ROTC program and see them post the colors. They're going to hear our chorus. They're going to hear our chorus sing not only the national anthem, but our alma mater. They're going to see various different student performances. They're going to be paired up with a student ambassador from our Let the Children Lead program, which we conduct here in March. So they'll have an ambassador who is already busy writing them a letter to welcome them to Sayreville. We're going to take them on a town tour. We're going to show them the red and white street signs that are named after those who have been killed in action. We're even going to take them for lunch at Tommy Nagel's hot dog stand on Main Street to give them the true
Why?
full
What'd they do
Sayreville
wrong?
experience. And then we're going to take them to the upper
Mr. Nagel's
elementary
my
school
friend.
to see the upper elementary school in action. And then the evening will close out following a brief meeting of our board of directors that Monday. The meeting will close out at the Grand Marquis, where Commissioner of Education Harrington will address the NSBA board as well as the members of this board and our central administration and Mr. Glahusky and Mrs. Coglianese. And then we will close with Mr. Kraft's legendary performance of his madrigal dinner. So the board will have a chance to have dinner as well as see our students perform what has become a very unique Sayreville tradition here. So it should be a phenomenal day, and I really like to thank Dr. Labby, the administration, of course, Mrs. Hill for all of her support, and Mr. Glahusky and Mrs. Coglianese, as well as all the staff and teachers who are supporting us.
Did you mention the keynote address before the magical dinner?
By the commissioner.
You did mention that?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes, I did.
He keeps trying to marry you off, Aaron.
And is that open to the public, the National School Board meeting
Uh,
that you're
no.
having here? It's not open to the
No,
public?
because we're a nonprofit, so that it's not a governmental agency. Okay. Any other comments for the board?
Legislature's Day.
Yes, Legislators Day.
I had an opportunity to attend 2 classes, and they were juniors, and some of the issues that were brought up about not enough parking and the permits, they're talking about, the students asked if we could open up the front of the school over here to extend the parking lot out closer to Washington Road. I told them I'd bring it to the board's attention and the administration. All this is for board and administration. They're not happy with the cafeteria food, all of it, period.
Going to meet Army food.
They're not happy with our guidance department. They feel that the guidance department is not involved. As an example, one of the students mentioned that she asked for guidance. I think there's 7 of them now. And the guidance department personnel told her to go on the computer and look up this site. They want more of a hands-on involvement with our guidance counselors. They also asked about why there's guidance. The guidance counselors are in the middle school, and not in the middle school, but in the elementary schools, where they feel that they need more guidance counselors in the high school so that they can prepare themselves for their next step in life. There was a question brought up about band equipment and uniforms. Then they had of course, one of the hottest ones is air conditioning, and I explained to them that it was $5 million when we were doing a referendum in '06, and they would like to have something done about that. To back that up, I told them about the Blue Ribbon Committee that's studying all of the facilities and what progress can be made either through a referendum or through budgeting. One of the things that really bothered me is they had a petition going, and it never came to the Board of Education about Dunkin' Donuts. It was presented to someone within the high school, and they said, could you imagine the amount of money that they would make with coffee and donuts in the morning? Okay, so bringing it to them. One of the other issues that they brought up, they don't feel that there's enough languages here in the school district. We have French and Spanish. They would like to have, like Old Bridge has, maybe German, even Chinese or some other languages, that if we could bring them into the district for their benefit. I mentioned to them about the fencing around the auto shop. They don't like the idea. None of them like the idea because they said, even though the issue is security, they said it'll start looking like a jail. Mentioned also about security, they would actually like to have more full-time monitors here at the high school. The other issue that was brought up is that a lot of the students feel that sports overrule education here. They mentioned specifically football and basketball, And the last thing, which has nothing to do with it, Mr. McEnroe, congratulations to Jackson Memorial. You're going to be in a Thanksgiving Day parade.
I am?
Well, the band
Okay,
is.
I didn't know that. Yes, I know that. They're every year.
Were the students happy about anything?
They were happy about a lot of things, I just took the gripes that they, see what it is, when I go in there, I explain who I am, and then I go a one-on-one asking what do they feel, how Sayreville High. I always introduce once a bomber, always a bomber, and they can see that attitude, and, they're proud to be here, but, it's like anything else, they'd like to see some of the improvements done to the district to make the district better. They know that they're on their way out. They've got another year after this, and they're gone, but they're looking forward, as they said, to the upcoming students to make it better for them. Like how our parents had always said, we want to make it better for us, and then we want to make it better for the next generation to come. That is the attitude that they're trying to present to the board.
Did you take notes on any of the positive things that they said?
Pardon me?
Did you take notes of any of the positive things that they
Oh,
said?
yeah, they talked about some of the teaching staff here in the schools outstanding. They love Mr. Brown, to be perfectly honest with you. I asked them about that. The classes, the technology, I talked to them about STEM. They're into STEM. They're happy we've got the ROTC program. STEM, for everybody, is science, technology, education, and math. Engineering and math. They were enthusiastic about that. And one of the things that they all agreed on is that, this is their junior year, that they've got to start looking at what schools they want to go to. I had suggested, about, like any parent had done before, taking your parents with the student to a college and seeing what it's all about. Like Rutgers, going to maybe West Virginia, going maybe to Penn State, maybe going to Kane, Stockton, any local schools and out-of-district schools. They thought that that's a very good idea. They're happy with the facilities, except for the heat. The heat, they said, is the worst at the beginning of May through June, and from September till the end of October. That's why they asked for the air conditioning. The facilities they're happy that they're well cleaned and kept. They're happy with the staff that's here. The education, they feel that they're getting a good education, but to them, it seemed like there was prioritized issues that were above what they thought should have been.
I was also there for Legislators' Day, and of course, the first thing that comes up is air conditioning, and I explained it to them, It's an old building, it probably couldn't support it to begin with when the referendum was out for the addition, and I asked a board member, because I was still teaching here at the time, are we pre-wiring, because they put enough, and Jimmy, it's funny, because Jimmy was in my wing putting wires through the ceiling like forever. I said, are we pre-wiring for air conditioning? And I can't remember who the board member was at the time. And they said, oh no, the public would never stand for it. And my response at that time was, well, that's because in your mind, you're air conditioning us, meaning the teachers. But in their mind, they're air conditioning their children. They certainly would vote for it, but of course it wasn't put in as part of the package and it didn't occur. And the kids understood that, but they did ask, why is Sayreville so cheap? So then I have to go into my spiel about taxes, and I said, I pay taxes just the way your parents do. When I first moved here, my taxes were $1,200. Now they're almost $12,000. So that's how it works. And we can't afford everything on the taxes that we get. And then we started talking about the points and the pilot program and how that will affect education. I was in Joe G's class, and he brought up about pay to play, and I said, we are really trying our hardest not to ever have to go there. We have a whole wonderful setup of extracurricular that they can choose from. Many schools are cutting out the art, and I'm still proud that we have such a great art program, and our robotics, and our wood shop and water tech, all those extra things that we can offer them. And for the most part, the kids were very receptive, they were very pleasant, and I told them to be nice because I was very old, so they were good to me.
No, you're not.
Anyone else before we open the
Most
public?
of the items
Just one other
to
thing,
take
Mr.
offline,
Sack.
Because I'll speak to the individuals that handle those. But the one thing that struck me was, and both classes said this to me, when I spoke to them about security, none of the students were informed about what we were doing.
and I think we did a poor job there, okay? I think during the assembly, perhaps the first day of school, even the morning announcements, a few moments should have been taken out to explain the new policies and procedures that affect them directly, you know? So going forward, I think we should include them. You know, they want to be included, you know? They're interested in what's going on in their school.
I agree.
Mr. Lewis could be getting some assignments out of this whole thing. Mr. Bishara.
The one last thing, I didn't follow up on this, but there's a constitutional amendment voted on in Pennsylvania this past election day of removing the cost of education from taxpayers. I don't know how it was going to be funded. I have the bills here listed here. Maybe you could follow up with the representative from the state of Pennsylvania to see if it passed. It was a constitutional amendment. It was on the ballot.
Oh, it's
Yes, see, in order for it to be on the ballot, it had to pass the legislature twice.
Gotcha.
And it passed twice, and they put it on the ballot for this election period, and I don't know if it passed or not, but what it was, that they were going to remove the cost of education from the tax base. You know, I have a quote, I really don't want to read it, but it's basically what we've always said. People have lived in their homes all their lives, and now that they're retired, they won't be able to stay in their house with the cost of.
But it didn't explain how they're going to fund education?
I'm sorry?
I said it didn't explain how they plan to fund education?
No, it wasn't in the bill. It was just the highlights of what the bill's purpose was.
I'd be interested to know how they're going to do that.
I was going to say, but that sounds like a constitutional amendment that would be approved.
Yeah.
Yes. But I will find out for you to find out.
Thank you.
What the status of that is. Anyone else?
One more thing, Ken.
Mr. Balka.
At this past Thursday's middle school PTO meeting, they mentioned that they are no longer having care night, so they intend on having a food truck attend their pocketbook bingo. The trucks were going to donate 10% of their proceeds to BIC because care night used to bring in money for BIC. Now, they're upset that we're charging them $30 for each truck to be there, and they're asking us if we can waive that fee. They just brought to my attention last Thursday. I never heard anything about it. Did you know?
Yeah, that was brought to my attention. They're basically subleasing our property for us. They're asking a vendor to come to make a profit. I understand they're giving parts of their profit to an organization, but they're bringing an outside vendor in to make money. So that outside vendor coming in should be paying for use of our facilities, and they should also be providing proof of insurance. They're going to be serving food to kids, but we can't start having organizations come in and then sublease out to other organizations
They just want me to bring
for
it
use
to-
of our
bring it to the
facilities.
board.
So we actually, I understand what they're trying to do, and that's why we were going to charge them $10 an hour or $20 an hour, and then I actually reduced it to just $30 for the whole night. But this is an organization. These are trucks that are coming in. Yes, they're giving a part of their profit to a charity, a community charity, not a school district charity. But they're also making a profit. So I believe that they should pay some small fee. $30 is not a lot for them, but most importantly, they should be providing us with a certificate of insurance because they're going to be giving food to people. And we do not want that liability.
Any other items?
I just have a question. I just remember back from the days, we used to always do like picnics in Burks Park for the middle school, and there were always other types of vendors, like food. But like, if we had like a cotton candy company or something like that, do we still do stuff like that? Is that still
I don't know,
allowed?
but that's not on school property. These are
Oh,
trucks
okay,
that are
'cause it's
coming
just
to the
because
middle
it's
school.
school
They're going to
property.
park right in the middle school.
All right, so just, even though it's a school function though, if it's not a school property, we don't need insurance? If it's food?
If that truck is going there at that public place and they're selling, food, technically, if a child were to get sick on it, someone could say, you should have never allowed my child to have that food. But if it's going to be on school property for a school-sponsored activity, we need, first and foremost, a certificate of insurance. But secondly, we can't start having, even though it's our PTO, organizations come in and sublease. Now, it would be a different story if they were having these trucks come in and all of the proceeds were going toward the charity. Then we consider that, and that's what some of our vendors do. We'd still require a certificate of insurance. But basically, these people are coming in to make money too. I think it was brought up at a board meeting ago, how sometimes in our athletic events, the ice cream truck comes on our property. Well, it's the same thing, right? It's basically the same thing. So we have to be careful. So we're asking them to pay for their parking space to be there. But we're also, because we're doing that, we're also asking them to provide us with their certificate of insurance.
Any other items?
Mr. Stein, yeah, speaking with Dr. Labby was just mentioned, that ice cream truck is always here for graduation.
Not anymore.
Not anymore?
We stopped that.
They don't let them in the lot.
Okay, because I know for years that person was showing up right outside
Yeah.
this building and selling ice cream.
with
And
the
this is
motor
the same
running,
thing.
I complained about it like for years.
Yeah.
And the guy gave me a hard time, and I told the cops to take him off the property, and they did. But the motor is running, so that's, cleaner.
Right.
You're not supposed to have that happening. And he was taking up 2 spots. That's what pissed me
No,
off
I
the
remember
most.
that.
There was hardly any parking, and he was in 2 spots. I said, he's out of here.
Good
Anyone
job.
else before we open the public?
Can I
At this,
just make one, you almost had it. I would like at this time to recognize the 2 people who are sitting out in the audience, who are 2 newly elected Board of Education members, Ms. Karen Rubio and Mr. Chris Callahan. Please stand up so everybody can see who you are. They will be joining
Okay, that
us
was
in
close.
January.
That was good.
There we go. Okay, I'm
You're
done.
still here, I guess
I'm
that's a
done.
good thing.
That's a good thing.
Didn't run away.
all right, at this time, I'll open it up to public for any item concerning the agenda. Yes, and I apologize, that must have been the longest 10 minutes of your life.
Because you had so much going on, and I learned a lot coming, so I'm glad I came. My name is Wendy Castlegrant. My address is 87 Balmhurst Avenue, Sayreville, New Jersey. I have 3 kids here in Sayreville. I have 2 in the high school, and I have 1 who is now in the UES, moving to middle school next year. My youngest is in the special ed program, and when she started at 5 years old, actually she started at 3 in the preschool. She started learning ASL, American Sign Language, with her teacher and with her speech teacher because she's nonverbal. As she came through the grades, I've been asking about ASL, and of course it's a big thing with the budget, I know. So she started learning like everyone else with the speech app, with the iPads, and she's done wonderfully. But ASL is still something that she really could use. And there are a lot of other students that are nonverbal that, they're going to go through high school and be nonverbal. So last year, I found out that a law was passed that said that high schools and public schools have to acknowledge ASL as their second language or their foreign language requirement for graduation. So that is a great thing because Sayreville can get it. I'm wondering if it's being talked about, what the status is, what parents can do to help it move along, because I think it's a real need. I mean, you have integrated sports where the kids are together. You have the UES where from 4th grade up, they take Spanish as a requirement. My daughter's learning Spanish, and she needs to learn English. So, still reading, writing, spelling, and communicating. So it would be nice to see her get American Sign Language instead of Spanish. And through the years, a lot of students would benefit. With the integrated sports, the kids could talk to each other. They would bring them together even closer. With the high school, the kids are getting older. They're going to go out into the world. And just having the regular ed and, later the regular ed and the special ed kids learning ASL, I just think it's really important. So I just wanted to bring awareness to everyone and ask, how far it's come.
Yeah, I mean, I remember you reached out to me last year at about this time, I think, about that. And Dr. Shediak did an inquiry within the high school with regard to any students that would be interested in taking that if it was offered
Can I ask
as a
what
second
that inquiry
language.
was?
Basically a
Was it
survey.
directly to the students? Because my
Yeah.
son didn't get anything. I kept asking him, are they asking, did they do a survey? And he didn't get anything.
There were about 10 students that demonstrated some form of interest in it.
But how did you survey the kids to see who was interested? Was it a piece of paper that went out?
I believe that the guidance department was involved in it. And through the years, we've done a number of surveys of students to see about offering other languages, and certainly American Sign Language is one that would meet the language requirement for high school graduation. However, we have to have an interest in it.
And
Right,
I will
but
say,
I'm also asking about specifically for the MD classes, that they get ASL instead of Spanish, because frankly, Spanish is a waste of time for some of these kids.
it's definitely something that is near and dear to me. I pride myself in being a special educator as well as a parent of a child with a disability. And I definitely recognize, understand, and am willing to further pursue the opportunity to do something like this. We would need a certified teacher. I know the Board of Education, we've talked about before, hiring once again a certified teacher of the deaf. Now, if we had a certified teacher of the deaf that knew sign language and was fluent in sign language and could teach sign language, we could definitely do that. So that is something that I know that Mr. Nasser and I have discussed, especially since more and more of our children are remaining in district than ever before. I believe the forecast next year is will be around 40 kids out of district, many of which will be remaining here at the high school. So I think your idea is an excellent one, and certainly one that Mr. Nasser and I have already had discussions about. And we will be discussing with the board ideas in which we can go ahead and implement something like that at the high school, especially for our students with multiple disabilities who might not be able to communicate verbally.
Dr. Labby,
Is there any discussion in doing it lower than the high school for these other kids?
We could definitely, I think what we would need to do is implement it at a level and either move it down or implement it and move it up. Right now, our greatest concern is for our students with multiple disabilities who are entering the high school. They are coming closer and closer to that point where they're going to age out. And we, believe it or not, the pressure is on us to make sure that we equip them to the best of our ability so that they can live the most independent life possible. And naturally, being able to communicate is one of those very, very important areas that we're focused on right now. So I would say that right now, the thought is more the high school, but it's certainly a discussion point that Mr. Nasser and I can engage in.
So are you saying the high school and then it would trickle down?
I would think that, but I'm not committing to that. I would think that based upon the fact that those are the students that we have to prepare right now, the fastest, and trickle it down. I'm not going to commit to that, though. I'm not going to say that we won't start at a lower level.
I think it would make sense to start at fourth grade where it's required, because they're going to learn more over the long term than starting at the high school and going down.
And we'll have that discussion. It's certainly something that's on our radar and that has been on our radar now for a couple of years, especially since you reached out to me last year.
Okay.
Hey, Dr. Labby, does anyone in the district sign?
We do have a certified teacher of the deaf. I'm not sure if she's fluent in sign language.
'Cause you know what, it's your daughter that's nonverbal?
Yes.
Here's where this is like heartbreaking, because now you have a general assembly, and everyone understands what's going on except your daughter.
No, my daughter can hear.
She can hear.
No,
It's
how
more
she communicates.
expressing.
It's
Oh,
for
it's
her.
expression.
Expression.
I'm sitting here thinking she's not understanding what's going on in the assembly.
No, she can hear.
Yeah.
The issue I
Gotcha.
have is, in the classroom, she'd be learning faster. She would have more time to do the other work, and her teacher could communicate with her better. And right now, in fourth, fifth, in the UES, in the fourth and fifth grade, the teachers stay with the kids when they're in Spanish. So the teachers would learn alongside the kids. I don't know how they would do it in the high school, but the teachers teaching the special kids would need to learn it as well. So if you started in fourth and fifth grade, you wouldn't have to have the teachers go learn separate. They would learn with the kids as the kids are going to class. And then,
It's definitely something that we're talking about. We do have a number of students that have receptive communication ability, meaning they can understand to a level of degree what's being said to them, but expressing themselves, they may have difficulty. We have utilized our iPads with Proloquo to Go, which is a software that
basically by touching it, it can express what they want them to express. However, that requires walking around with an iPad, which can be clumsy and cumbersome. At the lowest level, we have what are called picture exchange books that the kids can use. But certainly sign language is something that many of our kids can learn and use at a low-tech level to communicate expressively toward one another as well as their teachers. So it's, again, something definitely that we will be discussing.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else for public?
Barbara Kilcummins, 22 Schmidt Street. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Gloheski and his staff for that sign. It's all the information that's on there for the community, and plus, you can read it. It stays on long enough. I don't even know how to approach this, but it's something that has been bothering me, that we would give one of our schools to a county convention or conference for political purposes. I have been involved politically since 1982. I have been vice chair of the party for over 15 years. The current county chair is a personal friend of mine, and I haven't discussed this with him, how it came about to have it at Sayreville. I'm a firm believer that you don't mix politics and students and children. And it's wrong. I don't care under what circumstances. All my years of being involved, only once was there ever a use of the school, and that was the high school for a mayoral debate. And that was, the whole community was involved. It would be different if we didn't have a facility. We have a senior center, which they could have used. But to have something county-wide in our SAMSL upper elementary school, I think was wrong. I heard complaints of parents who were even Democrats about the signs along the road in front of the school. So I think I don't know if there's a policy or if there's one, but I think we're setting a bad precedent to have our schools be open for political purposes. And I firmly believe you should not mix kids in politics. And I don't care what, and it happens to be, like I said, I'm personal friends with the county chair. I haven't spoken to him, but I wanted to know how did Sayreville come about to have it here? And usually it was always in like the Pines or a restaurant or something big or location. But countywide, it has never been in a school. And I just don't want to see Sayreville doing this. So I don't know if there is a policy or how this came about. I didn't attend the last meeting where apparently the board approved it to have this. But no matter what group, what politics, I don't care if it's Democrats, Republicans, whatever, I don't think it should be.
We do have a policy on building use. It does not prohibit renting out our facilities for political purposes. It does prohibit, which is consistent with state law, the solicitation of campaign donations on school property, so that piece is prohibited, but the building use facility piece is not. As far as I know, I think the event you're referring to was held on a weekend, so there weren't children present in the building during when the event was held. But we basically made that change, because I think at one point this board actually prohibited use for political purposes, and I think we made the change at Dr. Labby's recommendation purely from a revenue standpoint, that if there's parties that wish to use our schools, and as long as we are, equal in terms of our use, if we're going to rent to the Democrats, we rent to the Democrats and the Republicans and the independents, that this is an opportunity for us to raise additional money to offset the cost of our programs and provide a better education. Dr. Labby, maybe, I don't know if you have any background as to who the requester was or how they came upon Sayreville. That one I don't know.
I believe it was, I think what Mrs. Kilcummins is referencing is the Young Democrats thing. I think it was a function, you're right, it was not during a school day. We have open public access. I without Board of Education policy prohibiting something, I can't deny someone that is going to pay for a permit to use our facilities. So I believe that's what you're referencing, the young, often going off the top of my head.
It wasn't just the young dem. I received an invitation. It was countywide.
Well, you're a young dem.
Invitation.
Or are you saying you're a young Republican?
Thank you very much.
That's what it was. It was
That's
that
the whole
event.
trouble. I haven't been involved in almost 12
So,
years. and
again,
that-
without good reason, I can't deny someone public access to our buildings. I need a good reason. I need a reason such as it's against board policy and so forth, if they're willing to pay for a permit.
Well, this has never been done before. Like I said, any political function to be held in a school. Like you said, you can't raise funds, but how would you know that funds weren't being solicited? You don't. It's
And-
political, it's whatever.
And our
I don't
policy-
think it should be mixed with children.
And our policy's clear on that as well. It's not our job to police the raising of funds, but if anyone discovers that funds are being raised, there's a contact for the Board of Elections, and that's where the complaint's referred.
Well, I intend to contact my friend, like I said, personal friend, who's the chair of the county, just to know how it came about to be located in Sayreville.
Okay.
And like I said, being involved since 1982, never was anything ever held at a school building countywide, no matter where. And the only thing was, once we had a debate in our high school. That was a mayoral debate. And that, I forget even what year that was, but
All
thank
right,
you.
Thank you.
What about the signs? Is that legal to put signs along the school?
I wasn't aware of signs.
You weren't aware of signs?
No. Of any signs being put, I wasn't aware of that.
They were there.
They were there
They were
all
there.
day. I mean,
But I don't think Dr. Labby was there. You weren't at the
wasn't
event,
there.
were you?
well, I'm talking, no, but it was there like on election day, so we had, school was in session.
It wasn't brought to my attention.
What do you mean, it's the regular political signs, Board Ed?
Well,
too?
no, I mean, I don't know. It was very hard to read because it was like every foot there was a sign. I could tell, I'm sure there was a sign for everybody.
Yeah, because I know in the past,
Well, Sam's
usually
was
they
also
would
a polling
clear.
place.
Well, I
So
mean,
that-
Right,
if it
so
wasn't,
you
if
can't-
it was
Yeah,
on
it'd be
public
100
property, that's
feet
one thing.
No, it's
from
on
the polling
Samsel
place.
property. That's school property.
It wasn't brought to my attention.
That's in violation of the law.
Yeah, I mean, the signs.
You cannot have a sign within so many feet of a polling place.
Right.
That's correct.
300 feet.
I mean, this is the first time I'm hearing that.
Yeah, well,
Well, and again,
the
that's not
people-
our job to police the signs in front of the polling place. That's the Board of Elections.
Right, but I remember in the past when this has happened, I think when Dennis was here, he's just picked them up and just, you can pick them up and get rid of them if they're on your property and they don't belong, I believe, can't you?
Sure you can, yes.
Yeah,
If it's
so I
on your
mean, I
prop-
think
yes.
we've done that in the past. You know, I mean, the building principal had to notice them when she came in.
Well, I mean,
and stuff.
if you noticed them, right? You just said you noticed them?
Yeah, I saw them when
But
I
you
was
could have
passing
told me,
by.
somebody could have
Yeah, but
told me.
it was too late by the time I saw it. It was
So, I
all
mean,
over.
yeah.
I mean, it was over by then, by the
First
time
time
I
hearing
saw
it.
All right, anyone else for public?
It's Mary Beth. My name's Cheryl. We have been calling the school several times for transportation. I have a little boy, and she has a little girl, that the bus goes right past our house, right past it, and goes on the corner. The corner has no place for these kids to stand. The people where we're supposed to get the bus at, they asked us not to stand on their property. She has two little boys. How old are they? 3 years old. They're twins. Try to control them and our own kids and get them safely onto a bus. It's almost impossible. The lady that we live, at the corner there, she said she doesn't want us on the property. Okay?
Is there a sidewalk?
Where do these kids stand now? They stand in the street?
Is there a sidewalk?
My grandson last year, he almost got hit by a car. There's no place to go, and when it starts to snow and the ice and stuff, nobody stops at the stop sign. They just keep on going.
What did transportation advise you
Well,
when you
hold-
called?
They won't get back to us.
Well, I did
Can we
email the
first
head of
get their
trans-
full names? I mean,
Oh,
An address.
Yeah,
Can we get your names and address, please?
Mary Beth Perry, 36 Brookside Avenue, Sayreville.
And yours, ma'am?
And me?
Yeah.
I'm Cheryl Wachonsky, 22 Brookside Avenue.
Thank you.
What we're trying to do is to see if, and they've done it before for both my kids and the neighbors' kids, they stopped in the middle of the block. One time the lady said, we don't ever did that. We've never done that. Well, they did it for my kids. All we want is for the kids to be safe. We figured if halfway down the street, it's her house. If we could have them stop there, the bus, it's already past everybody, because Zagata Welding is on that street. I don't know if you're familiar with it. People from Sayreville are. But the trucks that come in, it'll be past the trucks already. The kids will get on safely, and her children and my granddaughter will be all going, 4 more years? We'll be putting up with this. So either way, the kids need a safe place to stand.
Can I get what bus it is? Bus number?
Pink.
It's pink.
For
For Truman.
Truman Payne?
When I contacted the head of transportation, I emailed her to let her know, and I sent her pictures. She said that it is off a main roadway, and it's never been a problem before. She's
But
never
it
gotten a
has
complaint.
been.
So that was her reasoning for not,
And can you give me the streets again, where the current bus stop is?
It's Seminole and Brookside Ave.
All right, so she did get back to you then? You
It's
just,
down on Brookside, I know where it is.
Yes.
the problem wasn't resolved, but she
Right.
did get back to you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
She
so,
never got back to me since last year. So,
I'll look into this with our Director of Transportation. This has come up quite a bit, and as everyone knows from the beginning of the year, bus efficiency has been a major issue.
oh, we know.
The more bus stops you create, though, the more you delay a bus. And the bus stops that are developed are done so collaboratively by the bus company as well as our transportation department. While it might seem like an easy thing to take 3 kids from one bus stop and stop the bus just for them, it can delay the efficiency of the route.
They're
I
the
think
only ones on there.
it's just my daughter and her.
They're
So
the
the
only
only
ones
people
on
at that bus stop are your children?
Yep, that's
Yeah.
it.
There's no other children? How many
No,
total
just
children is that?
That's it.
2 children?
Yes.
And there are no other kids at that bus
No.
stop? Okay, I
And
will,
it's literally like 2 houses down, but.
when the meeting is over, can I get both of your email addresses or phone numbers so I can
Sure.
follow up with you?
And the meeting should be over very quickly.
Said that at 9 o'clock.
10 minutes, right?
10 minutes.
Just a quick question on your, a quick question on your bus route. You're at the base of Brookside. They can make the quick left and go up Quaid and come back out onto Main Street?
That's what they do. Well, really, they're supposed to go down Quaid and up Brookside,
Okay.
okay? They don't do that. They do it in the morning, but in the afternoon, they come down Brookside. And then
All right.
turn around.
I'll
coming
I'll
up.
try
Dr.
to,
Labby
I'll
will
try to
look
follow
at
up
this,
with you
and
tomorrow.
If there's one thing I'm confident of, he will call you back. All right, so please see him after the meeting, and I can get you the additional details, and we'll see what we can do.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else for public?
Yes, it'll be quick, Kevin, right? John Bovary, 1210 Harbor Cove Drive, Portland. Sorry for late, but I understand the access to the building during my prep classes might have been discussed a little while ago, and I'll try and help you follow up and tell you exactly what's been going on.
No, it was during PSAT and SAT testing.
Oh, I'm sorry, right? I got bad information.
Was it during the
prep class?
Somebody routed you
Oh,
up for
okay, I
no
thought it was
reason.
there.
No, no, no.
It was me. We were here leaving the building, and as we were leaving, the kids were coming in for the PSAT prep. It was around 4:45.
PS.
I'm sorry,
My-
SAT?
Yeah, got you.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
so it was my class, yeah.
my concern was that the front door was unlocked, so
Yeah,
the
I'll
kids
tell you
couldn't
what's been
come in.
going on, and then you can ask me questions, and I think I'll cover it all real quick.
And I can assure you, it has nothing to do with your class in particular, it's just,
No,
it's the
The
building
building
security.
building
and the-
security. When this came up in August with the new security plan with an individual checking people in, I came up here and said, is it going to be still going on when I come at 4:15, right? And it wasn't. That person leaves before 4:15, right? So real quickly, I arrive about 4:10, 4:15 every day. 50% of the time, the door is locked. I come through the main entrance, right? Half the times it's open, 50-50. The janitors have been given a schedule on days I'm coming at 4:15, and the students between 4:30 and 4:45. Sometimes they remember, sometimes they don't, okay? I get in, and at that time, truthfully, there's usually students sitting in the lobby waiting for parent pickup, right? So I get in the building, find a janitor, and open it, right? The students come. The plan that they've designed, right, was to stop back somewhere around 5 o'clock and lock the door, because I told them my kids should all be here by 5. And if there's a one-off that's running 20 minutes late, my kids are happy to run out to the front door and let them in, and go to the front door. By the way, I will make a side note. I'm proud to say that over the 6 times I run this class, the quality of children is improving, right? And the kids are committed beyond levels I've seen before to really, really work hard for this class. So I'm happy to put it on, right? Kevin's right. And I leave at 7:15 to 7:30. Kids leave 7:15, 7:30. There's in McGaw's old room on the front there's a English as a second language adult class most nights that we leave. Not every night, but most nights that we leave. I don't know. The janitors, I think, leave the door open for those people to come, but you'd have to check on that, right? But their plan was to close the door for my kids around 5, okay? Because I get calls on my cell phone from the kids saying I can't get in at like 5:10 if somebody's late. So I think they're locking the door around 5 for my kids. Somebody came late tonight and texted me, and it's working, right?
Well, yeah, that was just my concern, because as we were leaving the building, we saw the kids coming in, and we saw no security.
At what-
And then my
at what
question
time?
was, it was about 4:45?
Yeah,
10 to 5?
yeah, I would think from what I've seen, it's probably still open then.
Right, but my
about ready
question
to.
was, how long is it left open? Because then the building is vulnerable.
And,
with all the
I
security that
certainly
we're
don't
working
go out.
on.
I certainly don't go out and check, but I
Right,
believe
yeah,
it.
no,
I believe
I
it's
wouldn't
working
expect
pretty
you to.
close to 5 o'clock.
But so wait, you're saying someone texted you and said we were discussing this?
No, a kid texted me saying I'm locked out of the building.
No, I'm talking about tonight.
No, I walked in and Lori just told me they were
Oh,
talking.
I was wondering why you came in late. I said, why did someone text him and say?
No, I'm not that pumped.
We thought the room was bugged.
I thought we had a bug under the
No, they
table.
said Rick was going to follow up, and there's a follow-up, right?
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
I
Bovee.
think it's kind of locked at 5.
And I will say, I'd like to also say thank you for the work you're doing with our children.
Thank you.
His classes have multiplied quite a bit in terms of not only the level of students, but the number of students has, I would say, tripled. Right, Mr. Bovee?
Anyone else for public? All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Have a very happy Thanksgiving. We will be retiring into executive session on one item that is on the agenda, and there may be action on that specific item when we return. Other than that, we will simply adjourn. Can I have a motion to retire into executive on a matter of personnel?
So moved.
By Mr.
Second.
Machado, I have a second by Mrs. Bloom. Please read the resolution.
Whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975 permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances. And whereas this public body is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Borough of Sayreville, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey as follows. The public shall be excluded from discussion of and action upon the hereinafter specified subject matter. The general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is as follows. Personnel, including but not limited to agenda items. It is anticipated at this time that the above stated subject matter shall be made public at such time as the need for non-disclosure no longer exists. This resolution shall take effect immediately. Mr. Balka?
Yes.
Mrs. Bacco?
Yes.
Mr. Bashada?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto?
Yes.
Mr. McAgnone?
What are we doing?
Executive personnel.
Executive.
Just say yes.
Just say yes, Mike.
Yes, one more meeting.
Say yes, Mike.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
And Mr. Syak?
Yes. We'll give Dr. Labby 5 minutes to speak with the parents who came, and then we will convene an executive.
Second.
Second by Mrs. DePinto. All in favor of returning to public?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, we're back in public. Roll call, Ms. Hill, here or not here?
Mr. Balka?
Here.
Mrs. Batco?
Here.
Mr. Bishada?
Yes, here.
Mrs. Bloom?
Here.
Mrs. DePinto?
Here.
Mr. Esposito?
I'm here.
Mr. McAgnone?
Still here.
Mr. Walsh?
Here.
Mr. Syak?
Here. Can I have a motion to approve the employment of the aforementioned individual at the step recommended by the superintendent of schools?
I'll make that motion.
By Mrs. Bloom,
I'll second it.
seconded by Mr. McAgnone. For the benefit of the public, the information that we gained in executive session that I can share is the reason this individual is being brought in and being brought in at the step in which they're being brought in at is because it is an adaptive physical education position in working with special needs children, and as a result, we're looking for an individual with specific, qualifications and criteria and experience specifically targeted towards those children which they're going to serve. And that's the need for the additional step increment. Any comments? Hearing none, roll call, please. Oh, anyone on from the public wish to comment? Hearing none, roll call, please. Thank you.
Mr. Belka?
No.
Mrs. Batco?
No.
Mr. Bishada?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes.
Mr. McAgnone?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
And Mr. Syak?
Yes. Can I take a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
By Mr. Walsh, seconded by Mr. McAdone. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.